Chapter 1902. It didn't matter how strange Chu Yang's appearance was. As long as Chu Yang was in front of her again, nothing else mattered. Unexpectedly, when Chu Yang answered Mo Qingwu's question, he only looked at her affectionately. He looked at her in an unusual way. It was full of longing, reluctance, and guilt. Chu Yang, what's wrong? Did something happen to SHME? You. Mo Qingwu instinctively felt that something was wrong. She looked carefully and realized that Chu Yang was covered in blood. There seemed to be fresh blood dripping from his body. That was Chu Yang's blood. Chu Yang was injured. Who hurt you? Mo Qingwu, who realized this, cried out in heartache. It was even more painful than her injury. She stepped forward, wanting to hug Chu Yang. But Chu Yang shook his head slightly and took a step back, avoiding Mo Qingwu. Qingwu, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Chu Yang's voice was full of affection and guilt. No. You didn't hurt me. Tell me, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Tell me. Mo Qingwu rushed forward quickly, but Chu Yang was always 3 feet away from her. They were so close, but it was as if they were at the end of the world. He floated in the air and looked at her affectionately. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Chu Yang said softly, Qingwu, you have no idea how much I like you. Back then, you died for me. My heart ached so much that it felt like it would die. After the battle on the Wind Thunder platform, when I was about to die, I completely repented. The most precious thing in the world is you, but I lost you so early. Then, I'll make a vow. If there's a next life, I'll dance with you. I swear, if there's a next life, I'll only love you. I only love you. I only like you. You are my destined wife. Chu Yang said slowly. Mo Qingwu could only feel waves of pain in her heart. She was a little flustered, as if the best thing in her life was leaving her. Don't say any more. I'm all fucking yours. I only want you. Chu Yang, other things aren't important. I only want you. There's no need for me. I'm very satisfied now. Really, really satisfied. I'll dance with you. I'll never regret. No. I want to say it, let me finish. Chu Yang gazed at her face and slowly shook his head. Since I was reborn in this life, I have made up my mind to protect you. I will use all of my strength to protect you. I will reverse our destinies. I will go against the heavens. I will accompany you for the rest of my life, and I will never leave you. I want to marry you. We'll be together forever. But in the end, I kept my promise to you and broke it again and again. I'm sorry, Qingwu. I said that I wouldn't make you sad, but I didn't do it. Bu Tian, that day was an accident. I didn't know she was a woman. That day, I was drugged with aphrodisiac. Before I died, she saved me. She used her innocence to save me. Then, she gave birth to a son for me. I can't. Qian's deep feelings for me, and I've always accepted it. For you, I only wanted to give you the most complete part of me. But you didn't realize that I already owed others too much. When Qian died to save me in the upper 3 heavens, my heart wavered again. Qingwu, I'm sorry. It turns out that I'm also a sentimental person. Or maybe I don't deserve the word sentimental. Take it as me finding excuses for myself. Chu Yang smiled gently. In his smile, there were feelings, helplessness, and no regrets. Later on, I became even more confused when I heard about mending the heavens. I can't let her down either. I have to bear the responsibility of a man. So, I have to let you down. This is unfair to you. As a husband, as a father, I have to bear the responsibility of letting you down. Because of you, I have to keep the promise I made to you in my previous life. I can't bear the most basic responsibility for them. That's also unfair. My final decision was to break that promise. I can only let you down. I once thought of using my entire life to make up for my guilt and regret. I've also decided, no matter what, I'll make you happy, but I'm afraid I can't do it now. I've actually broken my vow again. My integrity, isn't it terrible? Tears streamed down Mo Qingwu's face as she said, Chu Yang, I really blame you. even though I'm also angry, and I've also thrown tantrums at you before, but I really blame you. I cherish the fate of our 2 lives more than anyone else. Chu Yang, please believe me. I really blame you. Your sincerity is very, very good. I've always believed in it. I'm sorry. Chu Yang sighed with relief. He said with a bit of melancholy, I'm really sorry. I'm even more sorry that I can't even give you the most basic happiness now. I'm really too bad as a man. I'm going to disappoint you. Mo Qingwu's body swayed, and her heart shattered into pieces. You. What's wrong with you? What's wrong? It's the truth. Bu Tian was captured. I wanted to save her. But the enemy was too strong. So strong that it exceeded my limits. In order to save Bu Tian, I used a forbidden technique that I can't use. I'm destined to die. Chu Yang smiled. Qingwu, don't blame Bu Tian. Bu Tian is also my woman. Qingwu, I can do anything for you. I can disregard life and death for you. But I can also do anything for her. I just hope you don't blame me. Please don't be angry at me. Chu Yang smiled and looked at her affectionately. He slowly flew back and increased his speed. Qingwu, in the future, you must take care. You must take care. Don't go, don't leave me. Mo Qingwu screamed crazily. Her tears flowed like a fountain. Chu Yang, don't go. I'll listen to you in the future. I won't be angry at you. I can accept anything. I just beg you not to go. Don't go. It's too late. Chu Yang's blood-soaked body slowly blurred. His eyes were still smiling. Qingwu, I really love you. I'll love you forever. Don't go, you liar. You said that you'll accompany me forever. You said that you'll marry me. You said it. You made a solemn promise. Mo Qingwu chased after him frantically. If you dare to leave, I won't forgive you forever. I won't forgive you forever. Don't even think about leaving me alone. Don't go. Qingwu, take care. Chu Yang's body was like a ray of light. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared thousands of miles away. Qingwu, my most beloved, take care. His voice lingered in the air, and still reverberated in the ears. But Chu Yang's silhouette had completely disappeared. Liar. You liar. Sob sob sob. If you dare to leave, I'll die in front of you. Don't even think about leaving me alone. Mo Qingwu cursed crazily and wailed, Chu Yang, don't go. Yuren woke up in shock, only to find Master ZJ looking at him with concern. Qingwu, wake up. What's wrong? Did you have a nightmare? Mo Qingwu looked around blankly, only to find that ZJ was lying on the bed. It turned out that she had a dream just now, a nightmare. But how could this dream be so real? She clearly didn't want to think about it at all, but all the scenes were vivid in her mind, and she didn't forget a single detail. The dream was completely brought to reality. Tears were still falling from ZJ's eyes, and the throbbing pain in his heart was still going on. He was still in fear, still in despair. What's wrong with me? How did this happen? Why did you fall down when you were fine? Are you hurt? The beautiful woman looked at Mo Qingwu worriedly. Mo Qingwu gasped for breath. Then, she jumped up and said, Master, I want to go out for a while. Go out? Where are you going? The beautiful woman was puzzled. Mo Qingwu's body, which was in the midst of sprinting outside, stopped abruptly. She was at a loss. Yes, where am I going? Where is Chu Yang? I don't know him at all. How can I find him? Where am I going to find him? Heaven and earth are vast. In the vast and boundless heavenly imperial court, finding a newcomer who had just ascended was like finding a needle in a haystack. Mo Qingwu looked around blankly, only to find that ZJ was all alone in this world. She felt an inexplicable pain in her heart again. She spat out a mouthful of blood and shouted, Chu Yang, don't go. She fell down stiffly. As long as you don't die, as long as you don't leave, I'm willing to return this life of mine to the heavens. What's the harm in exchanging a life for a life? Chu Yang, don't go, don't die. Mo Qingwu was unconscious, her body kept twitching, and she kept calling out silently, calling out to the person on the other side of her heart. What exactly happened to you? Jiangnan. Small courtyard. Zi Xieching got up in shock, her heart was in a mess. Somehow, there seemed to be someone talking, but it was so vague. She couldn't see Chu. She frowned and pondered, wanting to see Chu, wanting to think about Chu, but there seemed to be a cloud of fog in front of her, covering her eyes and her heart. Her heart started to throb painfully. Zi Xieching let out a muffled groan, bent down and clutched her chest, her eyes filled with panic. She realized that ZJ's heart was actually in a complete mess. What's going on? She remembered something. At this moment, she inexplicably thought of Chu Yang. She thought of the poem that ZJ left behind when he left. Hidden in the high clouds in the wind, I travel alone to the ends of the world. If we meet again in the clouds, I ask you to sweep away the fallen flowers in Jiangnan. Her heart skipped a beat, and she muttered, "Something happened to him?" A voice said softly, "The fallen flowers are like a dream. Dreams are empty and illusory. The vanity of the mortal world, flowers fall in dreams. Big Sister Z, take care." In her mind, Chu Yang's figure quickly disappeared into the distance. Chapter 1903. A strong sense of foreboding enveloped Zi Xieching's heart. She stood up in frustration and paced back and forth in the courtyard. The more she thought about it, the more confused she became. She had no idea what was going on at all. A young man in white rushed in. "Miss Z, what happened?" Zi Xieching frowned and said, "During this period of time, something big happened in the Heavenly Imperial Court." The young man in white scratched his head and said blankly, "Where did it happen?" "What the hell?" Zi Xieching said impatiently. "Then, the person I asked you to investigate last time, have you found out who the hell is?" "What the hell?" The young man in white was a little ashamed. But before he finished speaking, he was kicked out by Zi Xieching. Although Zi Xieching's temper was a little irritable, she was usually very restrained. At this moment, for some reason, she couldn't help but fly into a rage. "You can't even investigate one person. Are you still the empress of the demon race?" The young man in white was confused. He was about to explain when he saw that Zi Xieching actually ignored him. She just frowned and muttered to herself, "What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?" Lower 3 heavens. Palace. Emperor Taiyang looked up suddenly, his eyes filled with deep sorrow. "What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong?" He felt infinitely lonely, as if he had lost the greatest protection in this world, and had become an orphan without any relative. "Don't abandon me." The little emperor's tears flowed like a spring. On the other side of the Heaven Imperial Court, the Tribulation Brothers were doing something. At this moment, they were orderly and solemn. Mo Tianji threw out the copper coin of destiny and hurriedly calculated. Everyone felt restless, and started to miss Chu Yang endlessly. "What's wrong?" Click. Click, click. Chu Yang was still walking forward coldly. His footsteps were consistent and clear, just like an ordinary person walking. His eyes were calm and his face was calm. There was no fluctuation at all. He just walked forward step by step. But the Chu Yang now was actually so terrifying. Just like the god of death walking in the mortal world, everywhere he passed, there was only endless silence. The tribulation sword in Chu Yang's hand was actually flickering with blood-red light. With each step, at least 7 or 8 ghost hunter experts would die, their primordial souls destroyed. "Brothers, I said that I would create a legend with you. It was a pity. But I had to leave first. You have to be well. All of you have to create your own legends." Chu Yang's ashen eyes looked forward. "This will." There were only 5 people left. The 5 of them were like lambs waiting to be slaughtered. They looked at Chu Yang in fear and trembled. One of them was Yuan Shitu. Yuan Shitu was the young master of Mo Yun Tian after all. Even though this incident was caused by him, as long as he was still the young master, the ghost hunter and the others had to ensure his safety first. Even if he had to use ZJ's life in exchange, he had to do it. This was the sorrow of being inferior. As for the other 3, they were the ones who had gone to the Chu clan's courtyard to cause trouble. The reason why they were able to survive until now was partly because of their strength, and partly because of their status. They were the few people with the highest status in Mo Yunqian's group, and also the few with the strongest strength. But at this moment, these 3 people's faces were ashen, and their eyes flashed with despair. The others were all dead. As the culprits, they were at least accomplices. How could they be forgiven by this killing god in front of them? But, under this kind of heaven-suppressing power, they couldn't even think of resisting. They could only wait to be killed. This kind of sex is driving me crazy. Under the three people's desperate gazes, Chu Yang didn't say anything and strode forward. He raised his sword and the sword light flew out. These three strongest experts of the ghost region still couldn't resist at all. Their heads flew high up in the air. Blood spurted out from their necks. This horrible scene made the scalps of Yang Bo and the other experts of the Snow Immortal Sea who were looking at it go numb. These three people were real experts, and they were definitely not inferior to ZJ's expert. But these three people, the masters of the masters, were killed without any ability to resist. Even if it was killing a chicken, it had to struggle. But now that he was killing people, he didn't even need to struggle. The 300 to 400 people from the other two super sects, who belonged to Mo Yuntian, all turned pale. The thousands of people around them were all controlling ZJ, not daring to let him make any sound. They didn't even dare to breathe. Yuan Shitu looked at Chu Yang in horror. His whole body was shaking like an old sow, and his heart was already filled with regret. Isn't it just a woman? Can't you find her anywhere? Even if you can't find a pure yin body, you can find someone else to replace her. Why did you have to provoke Chu Yang? You were already killed by him once, but you still want to provoke him. You're really looking for death, and you're looking for death again and again. Spare me, spare me. Yuan Shitu retreated step by step in panic. Other than these three words, he couldn't say anything else. Chu Yang held his sword and walked forward coldly. He was completely indifferent. The last of the 5 people mentioned before was the black-clothed old man with white beard. That old man was still able to keep calm at this moment. It was obvious that he had a good temperament. The old man let out a long sigh and said loudly, "Sir, this matter is indeed our fault, but now that you've killed so many people, I believe you've vented your anger enough. Why don't we all sit down and have a good talk? If you're still dissatisfied, we're willing to compensate you. We'll accept any price. We just want to appease your anger. How about it?" Chu Yang looked at him coldly. He didn't respond at all, and continued to walk forward. The black-clothed old man with white beard took a step forward and said in a deep voice, "Sir, you have to reconsider. Once you do something, there's no turning back. Your cultivation is indeed earth-shattering, but my young master is not an ordinary person. My young master is..." Before he finished speaking, a sword light flashed. The black-clothed old man with white beard looked at the long sword in disbelief. It was like a brilliant flowing light that caught up with time. It crossed the boundary of time and space and pierced into his heart. Chu Yang actually allowed him to finish his last sentence. Blood slowly flowed out from the corner of his mouth. He looked at Chu Yang blankly and said, "You'll regret it. You'll definitely regret it." Whether or not the Chu Yang of the past would have regretted today's events was uncertain. But the Chu Yang of the present wouldn't. Because the word regret meant something to him. Chu Yang coldly held his long sword horizontally. His chest was cut open. With a shua sound, his body turned into 2 pieces and fell to the ground. Poof! It turned into black ashes. In front of him, there was only one Yuan Shitu, the last person of Mo Yuntian's ghost region. "Don't kill me." Yuan Shitu wailed and knelt down. "Don't kill me. I'm wrong. I won't dare to do it again." The sword light flashed. One of Yuan Shitu's arms fell down. He screamed. Chu Yang coldly said, "Snatching my woman?" This was the first time Chu Yang spoke since the start of this massacre. Yuan Shitu screamed loudly. His whole body trembled and his soul left his body. Poof! Another sword strike. Yuan Shitu's left shoulder also fell down. Chu Yang lightly said, "Rushing to my house to snatch my woman?" Yuan Shu was moaning, crying, and saying "shit me" meaninglessly. The sword light flashed again. Both of Yuan Shitu's legs were cut off at the knees. Before he screamed, Chu Yang's sword stabbed into his crotch. He coldly said, "Even if you're dead, you're not qualified to be a man." Everyone around felt their scalps tingle. But no one dared to act rashly. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Chu Yang slowly dismembered Yuan Shu Lu. Pieces of meat flew out, and bones were picked clean. Then, they were placed on the ground. However, Yuan Shitu couldn't die yet. He couldn't die even if he begged for it. He could only howl and scream in agony. His mind was clear as he endured the bloodiest punishment in the world. Chu Yang mechanically stabbed Yuan Shitu with his sword. At this moment, Chu Yang didn't have any specific thoughts. He only remembered one thing: this guy was a sworn enemy of Yuan Shitu. At this point, the destructive force finally began to fade. Chu Yang also slowly felt that Yuan Shitu's body was a little weak. His mind that had completely disappeared earlier was also gradually recovering. In a flash, he understood everything. He couldn't help but laugh bitterly. His sword pierced into Yuan Shitu's throat. The power that Yuan Shitu exchanged with his life was about to disappear. He couldn't let any change happen again. With a spin of the sword, Yuan Shitu's head flew up. Die. Then, the sword light flashed violently. Bright light overflowed. Yuan Shitu's head turned into pieces in mid-air. His flesh and bones were all turned into powder. The massacre finally came to an end. But the onlookers didn't relax at all. Chu Yang slowly turned around. His cold eyes swept across the faces of the experts who were watching the battle. No matter who he saw, that person couldn't help but turn his face away. This kind of ferocious and cruel gaze made everyone tremble in fear. The huge wound on Chu Yang's chest started to bleed again. Chu Yang could clearly feel ZJ's vitality and mental strength depleting uncontrollably at the yard point. I'm going to leave this world again. Chu Yang smiled bitterly and thought to himself, this life is really much stronger than the previous one. Since I started my career, the people that I care about the most are my family, my women, and my brothers. Chu Yang endured the dizziness. His cold and sharp eyes looked at everyone's faces. He held his sword in front of his chest and looked down at everyone. Blood dripped from the calamity sword and fell to the ground. The surroundings were silent. This is my bottom line. Chu Yang said softly, whoever dares to cross this line will face the consequences. He pointed the tip of his sword at the messy corpses in front of him. There was a pool of blood and flesh on the ground. Chu Yang smiled faintly and said indifferently, let's settle our grudges first. What's there to be afraid of? Shuexian's face turned green and white. Hai Lianbo was also regretful. To be continued. Chapter 1904. Their two clans originally had the best chance to be friends with Chu Yang, but they chose to stay away from him. And now, they were being reprimanded by Chu Yang and even had to worry about him settling the score. This kind of sex is too suffocating and will drive anyone crazy. What's wrong with a poor man finding out that a mountain of gold slipped through his fingers? Both of them are in a state of panic now. Not only that, they are also afraid that the gold mountain will crush them to death if it doesn't stop there. Blood flowed faster and faster from the wound on Chu Yang's chest. That invincible power was also dissipating rapidly. Gradually, he couldn't hold on any longer. Chu Yang stood up. Slowly, even his vision became a little blurry. He swayed a little and lowered the tip of his sword to support ZJ's body, not letting ZJ show any signs of weakness. So, I actually can't bear to die either. Chu Yang laughed bitterly in his heart. Chu Yang. A shrill cry rang out. Tai Butian had finally woken up. When she saw Chu Yang standing there just like that, she cried out in terror. Chu Yang finally relaxed. He raised his head reluctantly. Tian Tian, a violent wave of dizziness washed over him. He fell down like a mountain of gold. Tai Butian pounced over as if she didn't care about her life. She hugged Chu Yang's weak body and said sorrowfully, "How are you? Don't scare me, your injury. The heavy pill, where's the heavy pill?" Tai Butian used ZJ's hand to cover Chu Yang's wound in vain, as if trying to stop the rapid flow of blood. However, the blood continued to gush out, dripping from the gaps between her fingers. Tai Butian burst into tears. Her hands clutched Chu Yang's chest tightly, not knowing what to do. "No, don't die, don't." Her face was full of tears as she shook her head frantically. The current Tai Butian didn't have the demeanor of a ruler at all. She was just a pitiful young lady who was about to lose her true love. She didn't know what to do, she was in despair and sorrow. "You're all right, that's great." Chu Yang's voice was extremely weak. But he smiled in satisfaction. "I was afraid. I was afraid that I would be late. I'm fine. Nothing must happen to you too. Absolutely nothing must happen to you. Promise me. Your medicine, hurry up and take it." Tai Butian burst into tears. "I can't do it anymore." Chu Yang smiled like a child. "I used my last move. That is the last move that can take any enemy down with me. This injury. Even heavy pills can't cure it. Tian Tian, I'm sorry. In the future. In the future. I can't protect you anymore. No. No. No." Tai Butian shook her head frantically. "I need you to protect me. What I need. I will always need your protection. Don't leave me, don't be naive." Chu Yang said softly, "Tian Tian, you've always been a strong person. You must look after our family and our children." He forced his eyes open. He looked at Tai Butian gently and said, "When you see Qianqian in the future, don't worry. When you see Qing Wu, tell them to be well." Tai Butian's heart suddenly felt empty. It became empty. The surrounding heaven and earth disappeared. Only Chu Yang's words were left. Every word was like a huge hammer that smashed into ZJ's heart. ZJ's mind went blank. It was as if ZJ's body was in a mess. Her body seemed to be floating weightlessly. Actually, men should be like this in the first place. Chu Yang chuckled. She looked blankly ahead but couldn't see anything. To die in order to protect. It's a worthy death. To die, like a man. Don't cry, don't cry. I love it when you smile." Chu Yang forced himself to reach out with a smile on his face, as if he wanted to wipe away the tears at the corners of Tai Butian's eyes. His fingers were getting closer and closer, but when his hand was halfway there, it fell limply. The smile on his face froze in an instant. It didn't move anymore. "Chu Yang." Tai Butian let out a heart-wrenching roar. But Chu Yang still maintained his smile, and didn't have any other reaction. On the tip of the calamity sword, light flickered and seemed to be jumping. It seemed to be grieving. All of this indicated that the master of the calamity sword had fallen in the heavenly imperial court. Tai Butian looked on blankly. Then, she smiled foolishly. "Husband, the road to the Yellow Springs is long. Are you afraid to walk alone? You're not afraid of me. You've been afraid of anyone and everything in this world. But I'm really scared to be left alone. I'm really scared to have you in this world. I'm really scared. I'm scared of everything in this world." Tai Butian said gently. She took the calamity sword from Chu Yang and held it in her hands lovingly. The sharp edge of the calamity sword cut her delicate hand. Blood flowed out, but she didn't seem to feel it. She stood up slowly. She hugged Chu Yang. Chu Yang's body was huge and his legs were especially long. More than half of them hung in the crook of her arms. "I, Tai Butian, was once the leader of the five and ruled the world. But I'm still a woman with a husband." Tai Butian's expression was perplexed but firm. "I have a husband. No matter where he is, I'll accompany him. How can I let him walk alone in the Yellow Springs? A wife treats her husband as her sky. If my husband dies, my sky will collapse." Tai Butian smiled bitterly. "Since my sky has collapsed, so what if I live? So what if I die? Husband, I can't care about others and I don't want to care. But I'm really scared. Please take me with you." Tai Butian smiled miserably. She raised the calamity sword and stabbed it into Chu Yang's heart without hesitation. "I'll follow you in life and death." The calamity sword suddenly flickered with a glaring light. Thick blood gushed out from Tai Butian's chest. Much of it flowed into the wound in Chu Yang's heart and merged together. Tai Butian held the calamity sword with both hands and stabbed it into Chu Yang's chest. She sat down slowly on the ground with Chu Yang in her arms. She gently placed Chu Yang's body on Chu Yang's body, afraid that it would hurt him. "Let's go together. If we go together, we'll never be separated." Tai Butian grabbed Chu Yang's indiscernible illusory jade and crushed it. On the stage, the ordinary-looking woman immediately disappeared, and in her place was a peerless beauty that could topple nations. Tai Butian smiled sweetly. My husband is also very proud. To accompany him with such a face is too embarrassing. At this moment, I'm showing my true face to the world. I'll follow you to hell. She lowered her head slowly and looked at Chu Yang's face with deep affection. She said lovingly, let's go together. Her body trembled slightly, and Yuren stopped moving. The unparalleled celestial emperor of Iron Cloud. To walk in the spring with her lover, everyone around watched this soul-stirring scene unfold. They were so shocked that they were speechless. Yun Tian bit his lips. Watching Tai Butian commit suicide, a hint of regret and guilt flashed across his eyes. Then, he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Chu Yang's sword technique was indeed a forbidden technique that would cause mutual destruction. This terrifying enemy of his was finally dead. However, did he die because of Chu Yang's plan? The others also had different expressions and emotions. When Chu Yang used his heart's blood to destroy all tribulations, the sword spirit was completely useless. The sword spirit was completely useless. At this moment, the sword spirit was in the space. His face was resolute. Since this is the case, since the tribulation swordmaster can't break through the heavenly tribulation, do I have to start over again and serve other mediocre tribulation swordmasters? After Chu Yang, who else in this world can be worthy of my attention? Moreover, he's my brother. He treated me as a brother and treated me with sincerity. Now that he's dead, how can I just disappear with the tribulation sword? Wait for the next reincarnation? Forget it, I'll go with you. The sword spirit lay down slowly and gathered Chu Yang's nirvana flame in the depths of his soul. Once the tribulation sword disintegrated due to the tribulation sword master's death and the tribulation space collapsed, Chu Yang would also disappear. He wouldn't stay in this world anymore. The sword spirit sneered. If such a person can't do it, who else can? I won't serve him anymore. I've lived for so many years with my brother. I'm tired of being old. In the tribulation sword, the shadow was anxiously tearing at Chu Yang's hair. How can this be? How can this be? How can this be? If he came out first, Chu Yang wouldn't die. But after Chu Yang activated the tribulation sword with my blood, even if he came out, it would be too late. It wouldn't be of any help. Using my blood to destroy tribulation sword was an irreversible ultimate forbidden technique. If it wasn't for the high price that required all lives in exchange, how could the person who executed this technique have such unimaginable power? Even if he came out, he wouldn't be able to change the fact that he was going to destroy tribulation sword. At least he had the ability to do so. As far as he knew, there were at most 2 people who could reverse the situation in the entire universe and the chaos firmament. But those 2 people weren't here now. In other words, Chu Yang was doomed. In the distant starry sky, on a blue planet, a young man in white who was fishing by the sea seemed to have sensed something. His gaze passed through the endless space and he muttered to himself, are you also like this? Not bad, not bad. Beside him, a beautiful woman who didn't seem to be from this world asked suspiciously, what's wrong? Nothing. Let's continue fishing, haha. The young man in white smiled and moved the fishing rod in his hand. He couldn't help but laugh. What a big fish. It's taken the bait. The beautiful woman couldn't help but roll her eyes. With your cultivation, if you want to catch fish, you don't even need to blow. At most, you just need to glare, and all the fish in the sea will float up with their bellies facing up. But now, you're actually fishing here slowly, and you're so excited after catching a fish. Who are you trying to fool? Only a ghost would believe you. The beautiful woman rolled her eyes and wrinkled her nose. She snorted and turned to leave. This flirtatious look of rolling her eyes stunned the young man in white. He looked at her lecherously. The fishing rod in his hand slipped out of his hand and was dragged away by the fish in the sea. Chapter 1905. Heaven Imperial Court. Baidu search PCOM, outside Purple Cloud City. Chu Yang and Tai Butian were lying in each other's arms. The blood that flowed out of their hearts had gathered into a ball and flowed. Seeing this scene, everyone around them slowly breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, that terrifying aura that made one's heart tremble completely disappeared. This terrifying person was also finally dead. Luckily, he was dead. Otherwise, this world would probably be in chaos. At the side, Yun Tian, Mo Lu, Zi Huang and the others looked even more complicated. Seeing one of their old enemies die in front of them, and in such a heroic and domineering way at that, all of them had mixed feelings and were indescribable. There was only one thing to be thankful for: finally, they didn't have to face this terrifying person head-on. But they were more or less disappointed in their hearts. Tidy up. Yun Tian sighed. Although Chu Yang is dead, but he is still a man worthy of our respect. Help him to be buried properly. Suddenly, a voice accompanied by faint laughter rang out. Who said he is dead? Everyone was startled. Then, they realized that a white-robed man had appeared at the scene without them knowing. No one realized how he had come. He had suddenly appeared here, as if he had always been here from the beginning to the end. This white-robed man just stood in front of everyone with his hands behind his back, blocking everyone's view of Chu Yang and Tai Butian. All the experts, including those who were facing this white-robed man, could only see his back view. There was a layer of faint white light on his body. Through this white light, only a figure could be seen. Even his figure couldn't be seen, let alone his face. This was originally a situation that shouldn't have happened, but it had happened just like that. Everyone even had an inexplicable feeling that this was how it should be. As if this was how it should be. This was how it should be. Many of the people present were tyrants of the current era. They had strong minds and instantly detected the abnormality. Subconsciously, they used their divine senses to spy on the white-robed man in front of them. But to their surprise, they found that this person had an extremely tight layer of defense on his body, which blocked off any divine senses from prying. Anyone who tried to spy on him would feel an intense pain, as if their divine senses were being burned by fire. A wave of intense fear instantly attacked everyone. A freak had just died, and now another one like this had appeared. They were both indescribably powerful. No, although Chu Yang was powerful, there was still a limit. He probably hadn't surpassed the limit of the Saint Realm, but this man in white. But it was truly unfathomable. This was far beyond the scope of everyone's knowledge. They saw this white-robed man pick up Chu Yang and Tai Butian's body with one hand. He grabbed Tai Butian with one hand and said indifferently, "Everyone, you'd better go back as soon as possible. Help me inform them that tonight's auction will be changed to tomorrow night. All the rules will remain the same." Then, he stood up. With a whoosh, he disappeared without a trace. Just like that, he casually jumped into the air and disappeared just like that. Only corpses were left on the ground. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. Everyone had seen it clearly, but they were all puzzled. Chu Yang and Tai Butian were clearly dead. Moreover, their souls had scattered and dispersed. The auction definitely needed Chu Yang to preside over it. But Chu Yang was already dead. So, how could there still be an auction? Also, that white-robed man had clearly said that Chu Yang wasn't dead. But, with thousands of eyes here, how could he still be alive when he was already dead? Could it be that everyone's eyes were blind? For a moment, everyone felt a little dizzy. Of course, the most dizzy thing was, who exactly was that white-robed man? Why did he suddenly appear here? And, he was so ridiculously powerful, so unfathomable. On the infinite boundless mountain, a white shadow flew over at high speed. So many people on the mountain didn't notice it at all. That person's movement speed was really too fast. It had already exceeded the limits of what humans could sense. At most, in 1,000th of an instant, the white-robed man had already reached the mountain peak. The long sword sealed in the soul-suppressing stone shone with a cold light. Without any warning, it was pulled up automatically. Without another word, that white shadow grabbed Chu Yang and Tai Butian's bodies and plunged in. The sword intent and the long sword fell back again. Everything returned to normal, as if nothing had happened. Perhaps it was because everything had happened too quickly that no one had noticed the difference between the two of them, under the soul-suppressing stone, in the land of the realm of God's source. The divine spirit of the calamity was flying here and there. Chu Yang and that extremely terrifying fellow had already left. Wasn't he the one who had the final say here? At least, he had peace and quiet. There was no plague. Just this benefit alone was enough. How comfortable was that? Although it was definitely a little lonely here, it was still better than being ravaged by others, right? After the previous incident, the divine spirit of the calamity, who was originally excited and couldn't wait to get out, felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over his head. For a moment, even his heart turned cold. Although he didn't have that organ now, he still felt his heart turn cold. It was no different from the past. It was really too dangerous outside. A random little fellow of the heaven stage already had such a terrifying backer. Who knew what even more terrifying things were out there? I'd better stay here. Just as he was letting his imagination run wild, a gust of wind suddenly blew in the sky. Wind. The divine spirit of the calamity looked at the sky suspiciously. There hasn't been any wind in this space for tens of thousands of years. Why is there wind now? What's going on? Then, he saw that the fellow who had just gone out not long ago had returned and was lying on the ground without a sound. When the divine spirit of the calamity saw someone, he was suddenly shocked. Tears almost came out of his eyes. Although he had no more tears, he still subconsciously used his soul power to materialize soul liquid to express his excitement. In an instant, he felt as if hundreds of thousands of alpacas were galloping through his heart. Ancestor. You. Why are you back again? It's not fun here. Didn't you take all the good things away? Why are you back? It's not that I don't welcome you. Didn't you see my tears of excitement? I was just excited to see you back. But there's really nothing left. When he went forward to take a look, he was directly shocked again. My goodness, how could this be? How did it become like this in such a short time? As far as the eye could see, Chu Yang's eyes were tightly shut. There was a smile on his face, but he wasn't breathing at all. It would be fine if he wasn't breathing, but there wasn't even the slightest fluctuation of his divine spirit. This meant that the matter was serious. This was a sign of complete death. Moreover, it was the kind of death with his divine spirit destroyed and beyond redemption. The divine spirit of the calamity wailed loudly. His soul liquid flowed out as if it was free. Ancestor. You are my ancestor. If you want to die, don't die in my place. How do you want me to explain this? If that evil god ancestor sees you like this, I don't know how to think about it. This is going to kill me. Oh heavens, oh earth. You can't play with me like this. Help. The divine spirit of the calamity's current state of mind. All of it was vividly reflected in the last three words. Immediately after, with another pu sound, another body fell from the sky. This person was a woman. This woman was extremely beautiful. Even in such a situation, the divine spirit of the calamity still felt that she was stunning. However, what was regrettable was that she was also not breathing. Her divine spirit was also gone. She was also a corpse, the kind that couldn't be more dead. What a pity. The divine spirit of the calamity clicked his tongue repeatedly. Such a beauty, but there's actually someone who is willing to destroy her. What a real bastard, her. What did you say? A voice said with some surprise. Oh, so it's you. I didn't expect you to really cultivate the divine spirit of the calamity. Not bad, really not bad. Although there's one more, it's not a big deal. The divine spirit of the calamity had goosebumps all over his body. He turned around like a whirlwind and saw that not far behind him, a white-robed man was standing with his hands behind his back, looking at him with a gentle smile. Oh, God! The divine spirit of the calamity sat on the ground. With a pop sound, his eyes exploded and turned into two clouds of black smoke. It was really too unexpected. Too shocking. This white-robed man had a gentle and elegant face. He was wearing a long robe. His hair was as black as ink, and his face was like jade. He had 3 strands of black beard on his chin. His nose was like a hanging gallbladder, and his eyes were like shooting stars. He was really handsome and elegant. In addition, he exuded a very obvious scholarly demeanor. He was really elegant, and people couldn't help but have a good impression of him. However, in front of such an amiable and nice person, the divine spirit of the calamity was already scared out of his wit. Beep, 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 beep. Little brother. The divine spirit of the calamity was so scared that he was stuttering. Beep, beep, beep. Emperor. Why you? The white-robed man sighed. It's really been hard on you. It's been so many years, and you actually still remember what I look like. How rare. Facing the person in question, the divine spirit of the calamity no longer had the heroic spirit that he had in the morning when he was scolding Shwe and the heavenly emperor of purple clouds. He lowered his voice and bowed with a fawning expression. Beep, beep, beep. Little brother. You're even more elegant than before. This. Of course, I still remember you clearly. Hee. I won't dare to forget you for the rest of my life. This white-robed man was undoubtedly Shwe, the Emperor of the East. He nodded, still wearing that amiable expression. He asked gently, well, don't tell me you still hate me and want to take revenge on me. If so, this is a good opportunity. I'm really too busy, and it's rare for me to have free time. No. Tribulation's divine soul said repeatedly. He had never realized that he was so eloquent. Ah, how could you? Your Majesty has always been kind to me. I have no way to repay your kindness, so I can only do my best to repay your kindness. How could I dare to offend the Majesty of the Tiger? Even if I have 10,000 guts, even if your Majesty lends me 10,000 guts, I still wouldn't dare to do it. I hope your Majesty can see clearly. I'm just a wandering soul now. When I see your Majesty's face, I'm terrified. P.S. Let's say something. I have a habit. No matter what I do, I'll say the ugly words first. This way, everyone will know what to do. In these 7 days, I can't help but work hard. The gap is too big. I've almost smoked 2 cartons of cigarettes these few days. I sleep less than 3 hours a day on average. I've prepared 4 boxes of Red Bull. Looking at the current progress, it won't be enough until tomorrow night. I'm so excited that I'm about to kill someone. My mind is also very clear. I'm not saying this to gain any sympathy. I'm saying this to make one thing clear. I've indeed worked very hard these few days. But it's absolutely impossible to maintain this state for a month. If that's the case, everyone should be sending me wreaths instead of monthly tickets, haha. After the end of the double, I have to have a rest period. I hope everyone can understand this. I'll definitely go all out this month. But I can't guarantee that there won't be any more outbursts like the double. Can everyone understand me? By then, please don't say, Feng Ling won't go all out because she cheated the monthly tickets. Then I'll cry. I'll give you a heads up in advance. Chapter 1906. Shwe Leihan frowned. Baidu search PCOM, how could this guy be so obsequious? What were they talking about? They didn't match. Which one was it? He remembered that when this guy was still alive, he still had some strength of character. Why did he seem like a completely different person now? He could not help but frown and ask, I say, are you really my Shangren? The divine soul of the calamity nodded and bowed. Yes, it's me. The Emperor has a good memory. After all this time, you still remember my lowly name. The Emperor is wise and mighty, unparalleled in the world. Shwe Leihan asked in confusion, back then, you were already one of the top experts in the world. Although you died back then and turned into the divine soul of the calamity you are now, the divine soul of the calamity can still be cultivated. But why did you cultivate it? Why don't you have any backbone at all? I can see that your cultivation isn't weak at all. It was impossible to lose one's backbone through cultivation. The divine soul nodded and bowed, then said flatteringly, my insignificant power is nothing. How could I be worthy of the Emperor's attention? I'm not worth mentioning. As for my backbone, I don't even have any bones left. What backbone do I have? Moreover, What's the use of having a backbone in front of an emperor? Xue Leihan was exasperated. This guy was really straightforward. However, even if the bones were gone, there shouldn't be such a huge change. You can even drag me into whether I have a backbone or not. You're really good at bullshitting. Could it be that something happened to you during this period of time? Xue Leihan recalled what the spirit of the tribulation had said when he first came in. He asked, "Oh right, why did you call my brother little ancestor?" The soul of the calamity shuddered all over. His eyes shone with extreme shock and incomparable shock. Little brother? What? So this little ancestor was His Majesty the Donghuang's little brother? My dear ancestor. My dear ancestor. Calamity was stunned. You tricked me once and you still think it's not enough. You want to trick me a second time. You tricked me while you're still alive. Even after you're dead, you're still trying to screw me over, and even worse than the last time. Speak, what exactly happened? Xue Leihan asked. Calamity Kobe held the thought that nothing could be more sorrowful than death, so he decided to be a bachelor and murmured, "He came in this morning." Xue Leihan understood. He immediately understood. That's nothing. He didn't die in your hands, did he? The soul of the calamity immediately burst into tears. He never expected Xue Leihan to be so easy to talk to. Instantly, a thought of a gentleman dies for his bosom friend arose in his mind. He said, "Your Majesty, you are truly wise, and understanding of the world. You are truly too reasonable." Xue Leihan was a little puzzled, but seeing that it was about time, he said, "Forget it, it's really too tiring to talk to you now. Now, go and walk around somewhere else. I'll treat my brother's injuries first. Only this place was relatively quiet. Let me borrow it. I'll leave when I'm done. Yes, please feel free to use it. Please be at ease." The divine soul of the calamity bowed gratefully, then slipped away. He left so quickly. That's great. I didn't expect the emperor to be such a good person. Why didn't I realize it before? I shouldn't have scolded him earlier, but that little one was really too ruthless. He clearly had such an extremely powerful bodyguard, yet he was actually sworn brothers with the East Emperor. This background. Oh, my God, what kind of person was this? Such a person came in pretending to be weak and almost caused the old man to disappear. Even a person who pretended to be weak to eat the tiger wouldn't be as ruthless and thorough as you. Xue Leihan arranged Chu Yang and Tai Butian side by side. He shook his head and sighed. What a pair of fools. Sigh, so cute. I like it, I admire it. So, ever since Tai Butian was snatched away, Xue Leihan had been following them all the way here. He saw everything that happened. It was only until Chu Yang said, "With my heart's blood, I will destroy everything," that he finally heaved a sigh of relief. He intervened and brought the two of them over. If Xue Leihan wasn't confident, how could he allow Chu Yang to die in front of him? Xue Leihan knew Mo Qingwu. In the previous life, Xue Leihan was a mutual friend of Mo Qingwu and Chu Yang. In the beginning, he was also a little uncomfortable with Chu Yang becoming a little fickle later on. But after understanding the whole story, he was relieved. Now that he saw Tai Butian die for Chu Yang with his own eyes, he finally completely accepted this brother-in-law of his. Looking at Chu Yang and shaking his head, Xue Leihan smiled bitterly. It really wasn't easy to force you to use this move of "with my heart's blood, I will destroy everything." As he spoke, he grabbed Chu Yang's hand and placed it next to Tai Butian's. Their palms were facing each other. He murmured, "Before she died, she self-detonated the fifth supreme martial artist's royal aura. She was really determined to die. Oh well, I'll let this sister-in-law bask in your glory as well." Then, he reached out and took out all the heaven-nourishing jade from the tribulation space. "I've prepared this for 10,000 years. It's finally time to use it. Brother, do you really think that the one who can mend the heavens on the three lives path is your little lover? The consequences of misunderstanding the prophecy are still quite serious. But there's a reward for all the effort. The reward is here now. The three lives path is Tai Butian mending your heavens and also mending each other's heavens. You used a man's responsibility to mend her three lives path. She used her steel-like true feelings and the royal aura of a human emperor to make up for your previous shortcomings. She forcefully reversed your own 3 lives path. This is what it means to mend the heavens on the 3 lives path. A plan has been laid out for 10,000 years. The heaven-nourishing jade is like this, so is Tibetan. Even the great miracle medicine is like this. Everything is to mend your heavens. With a light smile, he took out a jade bottle from his bosom. The moment this jade bottle was taken out, the spirit of the tribulation, who was already very far away, looked over in astonishment. Inside, this jade bottle was still in a state where it hadn't been opened yet, but it had already erupted with an unusually strong spiritual energy, causing this quiet realm of the divine source to be in a state of turmoil. What kind of treasure was this? It actually had such an amazing effect. When that expert left behind the tribulation sword that day, he also left behind this heaven and earth creation pill. Xue Leihan was somewhat reluctant to part with it. He stared at it for a long time. Brother, if not for the fact that I really can't afford to offend him, I would have eaten this heaven and earth creation pill long ago. It's better to give it to myself than to give it to anyone else. Sigh. But it's also not bad that I can keep this bottle. At least I didn't work for nothing. Xue Leihan sighed. He opened the bottle reluctantly and poured out a snow-white and round pill. The moment the pill was taken out, it instantly emitted a gentle white light. In an instant, all the spiritual energy in the realm of the divine source suddenly surged over like a tsunami. They gathered here and rushed into the pill without any regard for their lives. The speed at which the spiritual energy gathered was so fast that it actually drew out a clear shadow in the void and let out a sharp whistle. In the distance, the white bones all over the ground collapsed. The bones that had not been destroyed for 10,000 years had all turned into fine powder at this moment. The spiritual energy howled and turned into a raging dragon that swept across the sky. It rushed toward the heaven and earth creation pill madly. And the small heaven and earth creation pill actually turned into an ocean that could contain hundreds of rivers at this moment, swallowing all the spiritual energy that swept over. Seeing this sudden change, as the person involved, Xue Leihan was also shocked. In the past, only pills were taken out to emit spiritual energy, but this was the first time he saw a pill that actually gathered spiritual energy after being taken out. In the blink of an eye, the majestic spiritual energy that had been accumulated in the realm of the divine source for hundreds of thousands of years had already thinned by at least half. After that pill absorbed a huge amount of spiritual energy, it became even more white and sparkling. It actually seemed as if there were mountains, rivers, the sun, the moon, and the stars rotating inside, vivid and lifelike. It's really a good thing. As expected of the heaven and earth creation pill, after having it for so many years, I still have to give it to the fated person in the end. Sigh. Xue Leihan didn't dare to delay. As he grumbled, he pinched open Chu Yang's chin and placed this one and only heaven and earth creation pill into Chu Yang's mouth. Then, he sat cross-legged and pressed one hand against Chu Yang's back, waiting for the pill to take effect. Poof! Suddenly, a very strange sound came from Chu Yang's stomach. Then, to Xue Leihan's surprise, that big hole in Chu Yang's chest, that fatal wound, had mysteriously disappeared just like that. Where the wound was originally, the skin was smooth and tender. It's really effective. Xue Leihan praised sincerely. Then, he saw that Chu Yang's body was emitting a fluorescent white light. That white light seemed to be jumping around like flames. The white light gradually extended along Chu Yang's body and slowly reached Tai Butian's body. The wound on Tai Butian's body also healed in an instant, leaving no traces behind. The next moment, the white light became even brighter and even enveloped Xue Leihan. Xue Leihan only felt that his body was actually purified by this white light at this moment. He couldn't help but be overjoyed. This white light can actually purify my body as well. This Xue Leihan knew that his body and cultivation, to put it bluntly or honestly, had already reached the pinnacle of the heavenly imperial court. Under such circumstances, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that his body was indestructible for eternity, not to mention purifying his body. Just to let his blood and qi circulate for one more cycle was also a rare and miraculous medicine in the Heaven Imperial Court. And this medicinal pill was actually able to completely purify even his own body. This was equivalent to opening up the path to the great Tao for him. I'm basking in Chu Yang's limelight. The next moment, Chu Yang's meridians that had clearly been solidified earlier suddenly started to roll like lava from a volcano. They kept bulging outwards. And the same thing was happening to Tai Butian's body. The next moment, with a loud bang, the meridians in both of their bodies shattered at the same time, until they couldn't be any more shattered. Chapter 1907. A majestic white light passed through their bodies at an extremely fast speed, following the old route and passing through their meridians. Then, Xue Leihan realized that their meridians, which had been completely destroyed previously, had actually been repaired. As expected of the Heaven and Earth creation pill, it really has the ability to steal the creation of heaven and earth. It's really impressive. Xue Leihan was so shocked that he was at a loss for words. Indeed, if it's not an elixir that steals the creation of heaven and earth, how can it be called the Heaven and Earth creation pill? It really lives up to its name. Creation. I also finally understand a little of the true meaning of the word creation. Just as his meridians were re-established, Chu Yang's cultivation, which had originally disappeared, actually reappeared, turning into a turbulent airflow and passing through his meridians. This change was even more shocking. In the path of cultivation, one's cultivation would be lost when the body died. This was the law of heaven and earth. Previously, Xue Leihan had judged that the Heaven and Earth creation pill's ability to bring the dead back to life was already a miracle. But he never expected that this pill's effect was not only that, it even restored one's cultivation. Thump, thump, thump. Their hearts, which had stopped beating a long time ago, suddenly started beating again. And it was an abnormally healthy and strong beating. The white light dissipated abruptly, turning into a torrential spiritual energy, rushing through Chu Yang's body. Although it was also moving according to a fixed route, such a huge amount of energy was enough to cause Chu Yang to explode more than 10 times. 100 times. A few hundred times. Xue Leihan let out a soft cry. His abnormally dense cultivation was slowly channeled out, helping Chu Yang to temporarily resist this torrential spiritual energy, allowing it to be channeled into Chu Yang's body in an orderly manner. No wonder that mighty person wanted to leave the elixir in my hands. So this is the reason. In the heavenly imperial court, at the very most, there are only a few people who can resist such a huge amount of medicinal energy. Making use of people is indeed thorough, making the best use of everything. Making use of people's talents. Xue Leihan thought as he channeled his energy. As for why it must only be used after 10,000 tribulations, I'm afraid it's because of the word creation, Xue Leihan thought as he channeled his energy. Slowly, he realized that the medicinal energy actually showed the opposite side of ordinary medicine. Generally speaking, spiritual medicines would at most have great medicinal strength, but the medicinal strength would always decrease with each use. However, this Heaven and Earth fortune pill went against common sense once again. Its power was getting stronger and stronger, and it was continuously pouring into Chu Yang's dantian. As a result, the pressure that Chu Yang had to bear was also getting stronger and stronger. He didn't dare to let his imagination run wild for a moment, and started to circulate his martial power with all his might. If something went wrong, even he would be affected by the enormous medicinal power. If that was the case, that would be an injustice. In a corner of the realm of the divine source. Seeing the drastic change in the scenery, the Calamity Soul wanted to cry but had no tears. This was the place where he had lived for hundreds of thousands of years. More than half of the spiritual energy had disappeared. How was he going to live in the future? This injured fellow was indeed a jinx. He seems to be the bane of my existence. The moment Chu Yang closed his eyes, he clearly felt that he was rapidly being pulled out of his body. He had completely lost all sense, perception, and connection with the world. Then, he realized that he seemed to have seen a lot of people in that instant. He saw Wu Qianqian, who was bawling loudly. He saw Mo Qingwu and even said goodbye. He saw Zi Xieching, whom he hadn't seen for a long time. He even went to the lower 3 heavens, then the upper 3 heavens, and finally the upper 3 heavens. Other than that, he also saw countless people. Those who were related to him, it didn't matter. Anyway, he had seen them. Then, he realized that he seemed to be completely unable to move. His entire body, or rather his consciousness, was wrapped in a ball of light filled with starlight. He was floating, unable to go up to the sky or down to the ground. Chuyang was puzzled. Why did this seem to be different from the previous time? What was going on? Wasn't the consequence of using the myriad tribulations technique to destroy one's spirit and soul and completely turn into ashes? Why did he seem to still have consciousness? Could it be that he had been reborn again? However, this situation didn't seem to be the case. Then, he noticed that the ball of starlight was filled with dense mist, and a graceful figure walked in. She had beautiful eyebrows, phoenix eyes, rosy cheeks, black hair like clouds, and exquisite curves. She was so beautiful that it was difficult to describe, and her beauty was unparalleled in her generation. It was Tai Butian. Why are you here? Chuyang was puzzled. If he remembered correctly, he was dead, the kind that was completely dead. Now, he should only be a spirit that was dissipating. There was a possibility that his spirit and soul would be completely destroyed at any time. This was the inevitable consequence of using the myriad tribulations technique. Although Chuyang was unwilling to accept this result, he could still face it calmly. After all, he had saved his sweetheart. But Tai Butian was also here. Didn't that mean that it seemed that he had died? Chuyang. The moment Tai Butian saw Chuyang, she ran over in surprise and hugged him tightly. Husband, you're not here anymore. I'm scared. How can I get used to a world without you? Chuyang never expected that the domineering empress who had always appeared as a strong woman, who had once controlled the world, who could turn the world upside down with a wave of her hand, who could make the world tremble with a command, who could infuriate her beauty, would actually say something like this one day. Scared? Was there anyone or anything in this world that Tai Butian was scared of? It didn't seem to exist. Chuyang sighed. You killed yourself. You killed yourself just like that. Tai Butian didn't speak. She only looked at him affectionately, her eyes dazed and unblinking. There was actually an indescribable sense of relief and joy in her heart. So, one could really be together after death. I've seen him again. This is great. Silly girl. Chuyang held her in his arms and sighed softly. Tai Butian smiled and lay quietly in Chuyang's broad arms. There was a look of infinite satisfaction on her face. Now that things had come to this, there was no point in saying anything else. At the same time, it was also completely useless and meaningless. In reality, Tai Butian had sacrificed herself for him this time. Chuyang was also extremely touched and heartbroken about this. Live and die together. For most people in this world, it was always just a sentence. It was just a simple sentence. In fact, from a certain perspective, this sentence was just a formality. There were simply too many people in this world who had said this sentence, especially when men and women made solemn vows of undying love to each other when they were deeply in love. The frequency of this sentence being used was even more super frequent. And how many people could really do it? Tai Butian had never said anything like this to Chuyang before. But today, she had skipped this process. She had done it directly. Other than you, I don't want anything else. Other than you, I can even abandon this entire world. A world without you is no longer worthy of my nostalgia. Moreover, the current Tai Butian had completely abandoned all her reservations and everything about herself. She had turned into a lovable and clingy little girl, immersed in the arms of her lover, enjoying the bliss of being together with him in a simple way. Although both of them were in the state of souls. But to be able to have this embrace. Tai Butian was already very satisfied. Even though she didn't know how long this embrace could last, in any case, it was enough. You came at the right time. He didn't have time to insult me. Although she felt that it was already a little too late to say all this now, Tai Butian still said it. Even if I die, even if I'm just a soul, even if I'm about to dissipate, I want him to know that I'm clean. From head to toe, from start to end, I only belong to you alone. I know all about it. Chuyang smiled. Although this guy was lustful, you always had a way to delay him. If it were me, you wouldn't be so lucky. Tai Butian's face flushed red. She rolled her eyes at him and said, Bah, is there anyone in this world who is more lustful than you? I really regret it. Why was I so foolish to sacrifice myself for you? If you give me another chance, Chu Yang's expression turned dim. I'm the one who dragged you down. Tai Butian's expression changed drastically. Her face turned as pale as paper. She said in an extremely anxious and trembling voice, I was joking just now. I was really joking just now. I just wanted to anger you. Really. Chu Yang turned around instantly and chuckled. Ho, I was also joking. How could you bear to leave me? Tai Butian's face turned from pale to red. She buried her head in Chu Yang's arms and refused to raise her head again. Chu Yang rolled his eyes and said, Tian, look, there's no one else here anyway. Since both of us are already dead and our souls might completely dissipate in the next moment, why don't we try dual cultivation? No matter what the outcome is, at least one wish has been fulfilled. Tai Butian couldn't suppress her embarrassment at once. However, she said gently, You're my husband. Of course, you have the final say in this matter. Chu Yang, I'll listen to everything you say. Whatever you say, it will be. Chu Yang's spirits were lifted and he was about to start. If he wanted to do it, he would do it. Time would pass by in seconds. Aren't you worried about them at all? Tai Butian suddenly asked. Chu Yang was taken aback. He subconsciously stopped what he was doing. There was a hint of melancholy on his face that couldn't be concealed. He said, Of course I'm worried. But, is there any use in worrying? Tai Butian also fell silent. Yes, was there any use in worrying now? After all, they were already dead. Seeing the melancholy on Chu Yang's face, Tai Butian said with great heartache, I'm sorry, it's all because of me. No. Chu Yang said indifferently, It's because of me. The word sorry should be said by me. No matter what, it shouldn't be said by you. When a man marries a woman, he has the obligation to take good care of her and make her happy. This is a man's responsibility. It's because I'm too weak and can't protect all of you. This is all my fault. What has it got to do with you? Chu Yang sighed deeply. I'm a man. Tai Butian looked at him in a daze. She couldn't help but be shocked. Man. Before this, the word man in people's general psychology only had one concept, gender. But now, Tai Butian finally understood what exactly the word man implied. It turned out that a word that could be said casually was actually so heavy. Chapter 1908. If a man doesn't do anything, a woman can only suffer along with him. If a man doesn't have power, his woman will be bullied. Beauty is the source of disaster for a man without power. Chu Yang smiled bitterly. I didn't expect that I, Chu Yang, would also become such a man without power. Today's disaster has nothing to do with anyone, it's just that I'm not capable enough. Tai Butian shook her head violently. No, Chu Yang, you are the most capable, responsible, affectionate and righteous man in the world. I have never doubted this and have always believed it. The facts have proven that you are such a man. She looked deeply at Chu Yang, her eyes full of satisfaction and happiness. In this world, not every man can do this for his woman, and you have done it. Among all the men in the world, I believe that only you can be so reckless for your woman. Tai Butian's eyes seemed to be shining. In this life, to be able to become your woman, regardless of life or death, is enough for me to be proud. I am infinitely satisfied with this honor. Chu Yang chuckled. That's right, do your best. If you still can't do it even after trying your best, then so be it. Tai Butian nodded lightly. Yes. The two of them looked at each other and smiled, seeing the regret and concern in the depths of each other's eyes. Yes, death. Once there is impermanence, everything comes to an end. Once there is death, there is really nothing left. Those who should be concerned about, those who should be protected, those who should be faced, would all be separated by the netherworld. It would be difficult for them to have any karma. However, right at this moment, an inexplicably strong and irresistible pulling force suddenly came. In an instant, it was about to separate the two of them who were hugging each other. The two of them tried their best to resist. They hugged each other tightly but still couldn't resist it. It was as if two giants had grabbed them from each side and pulled them apart forcefully. They wanted to, but they were powerless. This was the truest proof of their state of mind at this moment. The two of them gradually leaned back. They gradually separated but still wanted to hug each other so tightly. Ultimately, they couldn't resist that strong force and finally separated bit by bit. Has the final moment arrived? A realization rose in their hearts at the same time. The end of life. Two people who loved each other were unwilling to part even when they entered the underworld. Now that they were holding hands in the underworld, they were still unable to resist the restraints of the underworld. For a moment, both of them were heartbroken. They couldn't help but stare at each other. It was as if they wanted to carve each other's faces into the depths of their souls forever. Chu Yang. After all, Tai Butian's strength was weak and she couldn't resist. He shouted with all his might, "Junior, I still want to marry you. I will marry you for all eternity. I just want to be your woman. I'll only be your woman. Don't forget me. Don't forget me. You must remember, if I want to marry you, I will only marry you." Chu Yang looked at her affectionately. The two of them were originally holding each other's hands tightly, hands that could not even be separated by life and death. Finally, they were separated. Both of their hands tried their best to reach forward in the air, wanting to grasp each other again and again, but the distance between them was getting farther and farther. Was reality really that cruel? On the road to the underworld, lovers were not allowed to hold hands and walk together. Tai Butian's face gradually became blurry. Chu Yang smiled in bewilderment. "Junior, will there really be another one?" Suddenly, he felt his whole body fly up. In an instant, the sky turned dark. Then, he completely lost all consciousness and returned to silence. Everything is finally over. "Qingwu, I don't regret doing that, but I still feel guilty towards you." At the last moment, one last thought flashed across Chu Yang's mind. He didn't know how much time had passed. When Chu Yang woke up again, he felt as if thousands of lifetimes had passed. For some reason, he actually felt old. He wanted to open his eyes, but he realized that his eyelids seemed to be thousands of kilograms heavy. It was as if he couldn't open them even if he used all his strength. He couldn't help but feel surprised. Damn it, he had never heard of death being like this. Could it be that he died very thoroughly this time and reincarnated again? Was he in the mother's womb? Otherwise, why was it so difficult? Was he reborn? Or reincarnated? Then, he felt an intense pain all over his body. Then, an extremely numb and itchy feeling rose. He almost wanted to roar out loud. Why was it so damn uncomfortable? Why was it so painful? The pain was still bearable, but this numbness and itch were really unbearable. Could it be that he had entered the 18 levels of hell before he even opened his eyes? He kept protesting against the bureaucracy of the ghost soldiers. How could he be so indiscriminate? The people of the previous generation were the saviors of the world. Even if they didn't go straight to heaven, they shouldn't have been sent down to hell. Today, they were actually subjected to such cruel torture. Was there any justice in this? Was there any? Chu Yang's heart was filled with endless indignation. The previous generation was open and above board. Why should they send me to hell? Chu Yang scolded. I didn't let the heavens down and I didn't let the earth down. The previous generation was open and honest. The previous generation was kind and honest. You guys are so indiscriminate. I'll always complain about you. Damn it, I'm already dead anyway, who cares? Now that I'm depressed, I'll just roar a few words first. Chu Yang was startled. This change was too sudden and too fast. His brain didn't even have time to react. His mouth didn't even have time to receive new instructions. So, he was still cursing and flaunting his nobility, old handsome, elegant, chivalrous, courageous, loyal, righteous, and brave. Honest and kind. Extremely loyal. He has never killed anyone. Chu Yang's heart was filled with hatred. His heart was filled with vengeance. He was brave and courageous. He was honest and kind. He was extremely loyal. He had never killed anyone. Suddenly, A seemingly familiar face appeared in front of him. There was a smile that was forcefully suppressed, and there was a feeling that he couldn't stop himself from bursting into laughter at any time. When Chu Yang saw him, he immediately stopped. Subconsciously, he didn't believe who he saw. After taking a closer look, he was shocked. Damn it! Even you are dead. That's good, I finally have a companion. I don't have to worry about loneliness anymore. This person was of course Xue Leihan, the Emperor of the East himself. You died young. How many times do you want to die? I won't die either. Xue Leihan glared at him angrily. Then, he couldn't help but laugh. This guy really dared to say that. Not to mention other things, he dared to claim that he was virtuous, courageous, kind, and had never killed anyone. The number of people who died in his hands wasn't just a few million, right? What handsome and unrestrained. Elegant, chivalrous, courageous, 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 and courageous. Are these good words related to him? It's clearly something that should be used to describe me. This is the most appropriate way to describe me. It's a perfect pair. I say, why are you here? Chu Yang got up and looked at his own body in astonishment. Don't tell me I'm not dead. Xue Leihan looked up at the sky and sighed. Looks like you're not far from death. Anyway, you won't recover. It wasn't easy for you to escape death. You actually went crazy again. Fate makes fools of people. Get lost. Get out of my sight. Chu Yang happily stood up. He stretched lazily. Ahaha, so I'm still not dead this time. That's right, I haven't gotten my hands on so many beauties. How can I die? The heavens bless the good. I'm always so good. He's so kind, so outstanding, so blessed by the heavens, so talented, so outstanding, so unique, so beautiful. How could he die so easily? Xue Leihan frowned deeply and covered his face. He didn't want to listen. This guy's level of shamelessness was truly blessed by the heavens. By the way, where's Tian Tian? Chu Yang asked casually. Then, his expression changed. He turned around and saw Tai Butian lying quietly beside him. Tai Butian's eyes were still tightly shut. There was still a sad smile on her face. She wasn't breathing at all, just like a dead person. Chu Yang couldn't help but fly into a rage. He jumped up abruptly and grabbed Xue Leihan's collar. He said fiercely, Xue Leihan. You old bastard, to tell you the truth, I've tolerated you for a long time. Previously, I knew that I wasn't enough for you, so I forced myself to tolerate it. But today, I can't tolerate it anymore. You bastard. He grabbed Xue Leihan's collar and flew into a rage. He was just short of really hitting him. Far away, the tribulation spirit saw this scene and almost fainted. My heavens, my earth, my God. What kind of person is this guy? He actually grabbed the Emperor of the East Continent's collar and made a big fuss. Look, his saliva is all over the Emperor of the East Continent's face. He's really too awesome. He's really too awesome. If it was another person, he would have been smashed into pieces by now, right? Even the Emperor of the East Continent wouldn't dare to treat the Emperor of the East Continent like this. But facing this guy, the Emperor of the East Continent actually looked helpless, as if he couldn't do anything to him at all. This result was undoubtedly a big surprise to the tribulation spirit. At the same time, a kind of respect for Chu Yang arose from the bottom of his heart. This guy is definitely a big shot. And a super big shot at that. I can't make a conclusion about him for now, but there's definitely an inestimable power behind him. Yes, just like that demon god. Previously, that demon god's strength was too strong for me. It seems that I can't tell who is stronger between His Excellency and His Excellency Dong Huang, but his strength is definitely amazing. I say, don't get agitated first. Let's talk slowly. Xue Leihan looked helpless. He couldn't beat or scold this guy. Now that he didn't beat or scold him, he actually took advantage of him. What the hell is this? Since you can save one of me, you can definitely save both of us. Tell me, why don't you save my woman? Tell me. Chu Yang continued to fly into a rage. I'm telling you, you better listen carefully. If you don't save her today, I'll wash your eastern royal sky with blood. Do you think I won't dare to do that? Shui Leihan was speechless. I've really never seen such a shameless guy. With your small arms and legs, you dare to say that you'll wash the eastern royal sky with blood. Of course, you do have the guts, but do you have the ability to do so? Any one of my subordinates may not even need to lift a finger, just a breath and they'll settle it. Is he so sure that I won't do anything to him? Playing with me? Wait a minute, this guy is actually acting to pick up girls, right? Chapter 1909. The more Shui Leihan looked at it, the more it resembled it. Yes, that's it. I got it. I saw through it so easily. I've never seen such trashy acting skills. Looks like this little guy is just an idol with no acting skills at all. Logically speaking, you should at least pounce on her and take a look, right? Check her pulse or something. No matter what, you should at least check her heartbeat, right? Even worse, you should at least check her body temperature with your hands. This is the most common method, right? But this damned bastard didn't do anything from the start to the end. He just jumped up and grabbed my collar and yelled, "Isn't this too fucking fake?" It's obvious that this guy saw me the moment he opened his eyes and immediately calmed down. He was sure that I wouldn't allow the two of them to die just like that. His heart was already at ease. But now, he came over to put on an act. It's obvious that he wants to win the girl's favor. His intentions are really sinister and shameless. That thing you mentioned. Do as you see fit. If you want to wash the eastern royal heavens with blood, go ahead. I won't stop you. You can stop when you've vented all your anger. Shui Leihan said angrily. Then, he said telepathically, I'm warning you, little guy. Even if you're acting, there should be a limit. I can only cooperate with you now. If you really go too far and anger me. Chu Yang blinked and continued to yell, this is the woman I like the most, the woman I love the most. You. If she doesn't come back to life, I don't want to live either. Without her, there's nothing in this world that I can't bear to leave. Don't think that I can't do anything to you. I can use my forbidden technique once, and I don't mind using it again. Today, I'm going all out. I'll perish together with you. After saying that, he actually yelled, with my heart's blood. I'm using my life to pick up girls. What can you do about it? The muscles on Shui Leihan's face twitched. He really wanted to slap this bastard into meat paste. Shui Leihan gnashed his teeth in hatred. You wanted to pick up a girl, I didn't object, I even cooperated. You wanted to deepen the degree of this girl's unswerving loyalty to you, I was also happy to see that. Didn't I still cooperate? But don't treat me as your tool. No matter what, I am still His Majesty the Eastern Emperor. Just like that, you used it as a tool to pick up girls? You actually want to perish together with me? He actually wanted to destroy the myriad tribulations again? The calamity sword is in my hands. What are you going to use to destroy myriad calamity? Even if you really used the 1,000 tribulations collapse, you might be able to do something to others, but can you do anything to me? Hey! What about the calamity sword? Where's my calamity sword? Chu Yang groped all over his body. Where is it? Where is it? I want to destroy the myriad tribulations. Chu Yang. A gentle call rang out. Tai Butian had already gotten up from the ground. With a look of surprise and gratitude, she looked at Chu Yang affectionately. I didn't die. I see you again. You're not dead, you're not dead. Chu Yang seemed to be in a daze. He hugged her. Overjoyed, he said, it's great that you didn't die. How could I let you die? No matter what method I used, I would have brought you back to life. Tian Tian, my little Tian Tian. Tai Butian leaned into his arms with a blissful look on her face. I didn't expect that both of us didn't die. Chu Yang. I'm so touched. It must be your sincerity that moved the heavens. I'm really so touched. Especially that you didn't die. I'm even more touched. The heavens have also been moved by us. Chu Yang hugged her soft body tightly, unable to contain his joy. His words became more and more mushy. If this guy didn't bring you back to life, see if I don't tear down his territory. Yes, I know. I heard everything. Your heart, your feelings, your person, I know everything. I understand everything. Tai Butian replied, full of gratitude. This is nothing. This is what I should do. For the sake of the people I love, what's the big deal? Chu Yang continued to spout nonsense. Shui Leihan shuddered all over. He raised his arm to take a look. On the originally smooth surface of his muscles, there was already a dense layer of goosebumps. I was the one who saved them, and the two of them at that. How did it become Chu Yang the beneficiary? What was this? Emperor Donghuang really didn't know that Chu Yang took advantage of others' efforts. The more great young master Chu did it, the more comfortable it became. He definitely wouldn't feel embarrassed at all. I can't take it anymore. I really can't take it anymore. Shui Leihan shook his head and floated up. I'd better leave. I don't want to be Chu Yang's love prop here. If I stay any longer, I'm really afraid. I'm really afraid that I'll slap this despicable, shameless, vulgar, and lowly person to death. Look at all the things he's done. Is a lowly person really invincible in the world? Leave. Where do you think you're going? Chu Yang shouted. I haven't checked my woman's body yet. If there's anything wrong, I won't let you off. Shui Leihan turned a deaf ear to him. He gritted his teeth and left quickly. His speed was almost the fastest in Donghuang's life. It wasn't any slower than the speed he came at just now. It was even faster. Do you have any shame at all? You're an influential figure after all. Do you really not have any shame at all? You've been carrying her for so long, and you haven't checked her body yet. As long as she's alive, even if there's anything wrong, your heavy pill can treat her immediately. You actually want me to continue to stay here and be a prop to contrast you? You're really, in your dreams. I'm fine, I'm fine. I'm really fine. Tai Butian hurriedly hugged Chu Yang. Don't make things difficult for him. It's already very good that he can save us. How can you treat your savior like that? Humph. Bullshit savior. Chu Yang pretended to be still angry and pretended to be pretentious. This bastard ran really fast. If there's anything wrong with your body, I'll kill my way to the East Emperor Palace to avenge you. I'm so angry. Am I really so important? Tai Butian's eyes moved. Of course. Chu Yang nodded vigorously. Chu Yang, you're so nice. Tai Butian was very shy and full of joy. She kissed him. It had to be said that the IQ of a woman in love was often in the negative. Even the emperor of a generation, the ironclad Emperor Tai Butian, was no exception. She didn't realize how bad Chu Yang's acting skills were. Only after experiencing life and death could one understand the importance of others. Only after experiencing the vicissitudes of life could one see the sincerity of others. Tai Butian was completely satisfied. Even if she knew that Chu Yang was lying to make her happy, she would rather believe it. She was willing. As a woman, my life is already complete. How could Chu Yang let go of such benefits that came knocking on his door? He directly kissed her like a pervert. He was still not very satisfied. Why did he only receive such benefits every few days? It was too infrequent. Such a good thing, even if he did 10 or 8 of them every day, it wouldn't be too much. What a pity. Swoosh. A magnificent sword light flashed across the sky at an extremely fast speed. It was right next to Chu Yang's back and inserted into the stone. Cha. What's going on? You've spoiled my mood. Chu Yang only felt a chill on his back. He turned around and saw that it was the return of the tribulation sword. He couldn't help but raise his head and continue to scold. You bastard. Fortunately, you didn't hurt my little Tian Tian. Otherwise, I'll never let you off. Up above, Shui Leihan had already left the infinite boundless mountains with a black face. He went up into the sky invisibly and could no longer hear the unreasonable roars below. He couldn't help but grumble. It's been 3 million years. In these 3 million years, I've only seen such a shameless person. He's really the best of the best, the scum of scum. He's really too deranged. I can't afford to offend him, but I can't hide from him either. From today onwards, as long as I hear the 2 words Chu Yang, I'll avoid him. If that still doesn't work, I'll go all out. So what if I run 30,000 miles away? The East Emperor, Shuelehan, covered the goosebumps all over his body and fled. Chu Yang. Tai Butian's eyes were filled with lust. She looked around and was charming, causing one's imagination to run wild. Tian Tian. Chu Yang gazed at her affectionately. Husband. Tai Butian only felt extremely happy at this moment. She hoped that time could stop at this moment forever. Oh my beloved wife Chu Yang's voice was mellow and became more and more exaggerated. Wretch, wretch wretch. A sudden sound came from the side. It was the divine spirit of the calamity who finally couldn't stand the nausea anymore. He flew to a corner and vomited. However, he didn't vomit anything in the end. Fuck, I haven't been out for so many years, and the moment I came out, something so explosive came. Even with my millions of years of cultivation, I still can't control this strong feeling of disgust. This is really too powerful. It's you? It's actually you? Chu Yang was horrified. It was actually that voice that was both familiar and unfamiliar. Only then did he have time to size up the surrounding environment. He couldn't help but be shocked. Why am I back here again? It's actually here. Damn it. He couldn't help but feel his scalp go numb. This was definitely a place of death. The degree of danger was definitely above that of the array that killed Mo Yunqian's ghost territory. He had personally experienced the terror of the divine spirit of the calamity. In his hands, he would definitely die. Moreover, it seemed that he had scolded him too badly last time. There was probably no room for reconciliation between them anymore. Chu Yang judged the other party by his own standards. Since he was sure that the divine spirit of the calamity would definitely kill him, there was no reason for him not to kill him. The degree of hatred was very likely to have already surpassed the number one enemy of the divine spirit of the calamity, the heavenly emperor of purple clouds, Zi Hao. At this moment, even if he really used the destruction of all things again, it might not be of any use. Because the limit of the destruction of all things that he used now was probably to destroy martial artists of the saint level, and the divine spirit of the calamity was definitely above that. He might not even be much weaker than experts of Shuelehan's level. Chapter 1910. Unexpectedly, the divine spirit seemed to be even more shocked than Chu Yang. It immediately flew away, shouting as it ran, "It's not me, it's not me." With a swoosh, it disappeared without a trace. PC. What the heck? How can I afford to offend this little ancestor? Not to mention that the sword is right there, not to mention the terrifying monster in the sword, just the East Emperor Shuelehan alone. I can't afford to offend him. Why didn't I control myself just now? Even if I can't control myself, I should have. Why couldn't I control myself? Little ancestor, please don't play with me anymore. I don't have anything good left. Really, please leave quickly. Please leave quickly. I won't send you off. Not me. What kind of answer is this? What's going on? Chu Yang frowned. He thought, did something happen just now that I don't know about? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for this divine spirit to be so afraid of me. Could it be that Shuelehan made him suffer just now? Yes, that must be the case. Hey, come back. Chu Yang made up his mind. How could he not make use of this rare opportunity to intimidate others? If he didn't make use of it, would he still be the great philanthropist Chu? The divine spirit didn't even look back. It was long gone. Not to mention that it didn't hear Chu Yang's words. Even if it did, it would pretend that it didn't. If there was any interaction, there would be trouble. If there was no interaction, there would naturally be no trouble. Chu Yang chuckled. He was thinking about how he should take advantage of this matter. As for the act in front of Shuelehan just now, it was indeed intentional on Chu Yang's part. He couldn't possibly cry out, "Big brother, thank you for saving me," the moment he woke up, right? Chu Yang. Tai Butian exclaimed in surprise. Look, my cultivation has improved a lot. What's going on? Your cultivation has improved a lot. Chu Yang turned around suspiciously. How much is a lot? Be more specific. Tai Butian circulated her energy. Chu Yang was dazzled at once. He couldn't believe it. Wasn't this a little too fantastical? Previously, Tai Butian's cultivation was at most not even at the peak of the human level. But now in front of him was a wave as white as the sea. All of a sudden, it lit up so brightly that it covered the entire sky. With Tai Butian's body as the center, it gradually spread out. When it expanded to a radius of 1,000 feet, it suddenly shrank back. All of them returned to Tai Butian's body. How is it? Tai Butian was extremely excited. She looked up at Chu Yang like a little girl and said expectantly, I feel like I'm at least twice as strong as before. What realm am I at now? Tell me. Chu Yang was stupefied. He was so shocked that he was stiff. At least twice as much. That must be a joke. How could your family reach such a level after doubling from the human level? Even if the human level was doubled, he would still be in the human level at most. It seemed like he hadn't even reached the Earth grade. However, the white light surrounding your body and the lightning retracting is something that can only happen when you are at least at the saint level. Furthermore, it had to be saint grade. Oh my god, what the hell is going on? Right now, even if Tai Butian was in the Heaven Imperial Court, she would still be in the Heaven Palace. Duan Sungkong had been cultivating for his entire life, and it seemed that he could already be called an expert among experts. Currently, he was only a saint. And now, Tai Butian. In terms of cultivation alone, she had at least surpassed Duan Sungkong's entire life of cultivation. From the human level to the human level. From the upper level to the earth level to the lower level. From the lower level to the upper level to the peak level. From the heaven level to the lower level to the upper level to the upper level to the saint level, Chu Yang suddenly felt dizzy. Oh my god. How much had she improved? What exactly did Shui Leihan use to save the two of them? Wasn't this effect too frightening? Was this the true meaning of reaching the heavens in a single bound? Tai Butian had just improved her cultivation and was rather excited. Especially when she discovered that she could actually fly in mid-air again and hover in the sky, and could even do anything at will. She was so excited that she couldn't control herself. After coming to the Heaven Palace, due to the huge difference in gravity, she had long lost the ability to fly freely in the sky. After asking Greasy Cat, Duan Sungkong and the rest, she found out that she had to be at least at the saint level to be able to fly in the sky again. Tai Butian was rather disappointed about this. At this moment, with only Chu Yang by her side, Tai Butian regained the ability to fly that she hadn't had for a long time. She instantly let go of all her worries and didn't hide herself at all. She rushed up into the sky and flew here and there continuously. She stretched her body freely and let out joyful laughter continuously. This was the most comfortable day in Tai Butian's life, and also the happiest day, and the most relaxing day of her life. The heavy responsibility of the country, the strong concealment of her high position, the feelings of a young girl. Even after coming to the Heaven Palace with Chu Yang, Tai Butian still felt that she wasn't the person that Chu Yang loved the most. Inevitably, there was a kind of depression buried deep in her heart. But now, at this moment, she understood her own heart and Chu Yang's heart. At this moment, she had sincerely let go of all her worries about external things and freely enjoyed the happiest time of her life. It was only at this moment that Tai Butian truly had the appearance of a young girl at this age. Looking at Tai Butian playing by himself, Chu Yang couldn't help but have a look of heartfelt tenderness in his eyes. He could clearly feel that the Tai Butian at this moment was truly happy and carefree. Ever since Chu Yang had known Tai Butian for so long, it seemed that it was only today that he saw Tai Butian so genuinely relaxed and revealing the emotions of a young girl. While Tai Butian was playing by the side, Chu Yang had a thought. If even Tai Butian could improve so much, it didn't make sense that he, the main character, could improve even less. In that case, how much have I improved? The moment he tried to circulate his energy, he only felt that the heaven-splitting divine technique was activated violently like a tsunami. Chu Yang was really shocked and hurriedly dispersed. Why is it so easy? It used to be a technique that required a lot of effort to activate. But now, I haven't even had time to exert any effort and it's already surging like waves. This situation seems to be too good. I have to get used to it first, Chu Yang muttered to himself. Restraining himself, Chu Yang first used his inner vision to observe the current situation. Chu Yang didn't forget. When he had activated the destruction of all things earlier, his dantian had exploded at the same time. The moment he took a look, he was shocked again. He was really shocked. He saw that he had a dantian. Not only was it there, but it was also full. In addition, the outer walls of all the dantians were golden, emitting a soft and faint glow. What's going on? Chu Yang looked at the magical glow in his body and really couldn't make head or tail of it. He tried to touch it. The flexibility and elasticity made Chu Yang overjoyed. That was because it meant that there was simply too much space for them to exploit. Chu Yang smiled crookedly. He had died once. There was actually such a benefit. In that case, did he have to die a few more times? Chu Yang suddenly thought of Rui Butong. Touching his chin, he murmured, "This is simply a super-strengthened version of the nirvana of the phoenix." Then, he tried to circulate the heaven-splitting divine technique slowly. He only felt that his body was like a completely still river, following his cultivation. Slowly, it began to circulate. It began to flow. Just like that, it flowed over and over again. The cycle was endless, and the speed was getting faster and faster. From smooth-flowing water to surging waves, it only took a short breath's time. And it was only a breath's time for an ordinary person. This level was more than 10 times, 100 times, or even 1,000 times stronger than when he was at the beginning stage of the heaven realm before he died. Looking at the scene of the entire realm of the god's source being filled with soft white light as he cultivated, Chu Yang exhaled softly with a solemn expression. Saint position, peak. Moreover, to say that he was currently at the peak of saint position was probably still a little reserved. Because Chu Yang could clearly feel that there was still a huge amount of power hidden in his body, waiting to be further developed. It was hidden in every inch of his muscles, every bit of his meridians, every drop of his blood. These powers were completely foreign to him. He had never seen them before. In other words, these powers were all obtained after this incident. Chu Yang guessed that Xue Leihan must have used some kind of heaven-defying super elixir to save him. His body couldn't withstand all the effects of the elixir at all, so the rest of the elixir was sealed in his body. It was hard to say how high the level of this medicine was. At least, it was beyond the scope of Chu Yang's understanding. Among all the elixirs, spiritual fruits, and heavenly treasures that Chu Yang had seen before, it seemed that only the heaven and earth mystery yellow fruit could barely be compared to it. In fact, it was far inferior. As for the situation of the power hidden in his body, it was easy to explain. It wasn't difficult to solve either. As long as he improved little by little, these powers could be fully unleashed and turned into his own combat power. It seemed that Tai Butian's body should also have a similar power hidden in it. He believed that after completely absorbing this power, he would definitely be strong to a level that he couldn't even dream of before. And this process shouldn't be too long. God, indeed, still cares for me. Knowing that I urgently need to increase my power, it came. This can be considered a blessing in disguise, right? Chu Yang felt refreshed all over. With this kind of power, he could finally breathe a sigh of relief for the time being. And the bunch of people from the demon ghost had all been killed by him. That disgusting fellow was finally not showing off in front of him anymore. He was in a good mood and couldn't help but let out a long howl. The eyes of the tribulation spirit in the distance almost popped out. This fellow seemed to have only just reached the heavenly level the last time, but now he was already at the peak of saint level, only a step away from the heavenly level, and the kind that could break through at any time. It hadn't even been a day. With this kind of improvement speed, could it be that he's the ghost and I'm not? Fuck. There's no way to live when you compare yourself to him. Chapter 1911. Once Tai Butian's initial excitement had passed, she started to practice the martial arts that she had learned since she was young. She displayed each and every move, causing the divine spirit in the dark to shake its head vigorously. What a pity. She had such good aptitude and such a high cultivation level, but she was practicing such trashy martial arts, it was a complete waste of resources. I can't watch this anymore. But Tai Butian was especially serious in her practice. She put in a lot of effort in each and every move. Tai Butian's heart had never been touched before. Strength. If ZJ was strong enough, how could he have been abducted so easily? How could he have caused her husband to be on the verge of death? In the past, ZJ had always been under Chu Yang's protection. Although she knew that strength was very important, she had never thought that it would be so serious. Now, Chu Yang's words kept replaying in Tai Butian's mind. Strength. The most important thing in this world is strength. Justice and fairness all depend on strength. Justice is not in the hearts of people, but strength. If you have strength, no matter how reasonable you are, no one will care about you. Even if you really have a huge grievance, you will have no place to complain. If a man with strength finds a beautiful woman, if he is unlucky, ZJ's woman will become someone else's plaything. Strength is shit. This is a world where the strong are respected. The weak are prey to the strong. Tai Bu Tian muttered under his breath, the strong are revered. The weak are prey to the strong. Before this, how could ZJ not know this saying? She had also thought that ZJ understood this saying very well. But it was only when ZJ was abducted by Yuanshu Lu and said those vulgar words to ZJ that Tai Butian realized that ZJ only truly understood the true meaning of that saying. This was a world where the weak are prey to the strong. This was a world where the strong are respected. He had never personally experienced it, and had never personally experienced it. He was just trying to understand it logically. Everyone could speak logically. But do you really understand Mengba? In the lower three heavens, Tai Butian, as the emperor, was the person with the highest position. They are the ones who set the rules and regulations, and they are above the system. They will never understand what is right and wrong, but now, she truly experienced it. Because she was no longer above the system. The heavenly imperial court also had its own laws. In addition, the laws in the Eastern Royal Immortal Realms were even stricter compared to the dynasties in the lower three heavens. But even such a rule was useless in the eyes of people like Yuanshu Lu. This was because Yuanshu too had the qualifications to be ignored, not to mention that he had a huge sect behind him. Laws, rules, are ultimately only made for the weak. The so-called laws can only restrain the weak. This was Tai Butian's realization. It made her heart ache a little. Shit, the weak should be protected by the law. But he was bearing the greatest effect and restraint of the legal system. Shit, the strong should be restricted by the law, but while enjoying the protection of the law, they were destroying, trampling, and raping the law as they please. Since the beginning of this higher realm, right and wrong had been reversed, and black and white could no longer be distinguished. Tai Butian thought to herself as she practiced. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that it was very difficult for ordinary people to survive in this world. Or perhaps, such a situation was ingrained in the bones of any person. How could such a situation really disappear? How could such a so-called privileged class not exist? Tai Butian thought about it and finally couldn't help but ask Chu Yang. Chu Yang pondered for a while and shook his head with a bitter smile. This really can't be eliminated. As long as there are people in this world, there will definitely be disparities. And once this disparity is pulled too far, it will form a class. Once a class is formed, there will definitely be unfairness. You want everyone to be equal, but it's completely impossible. Tai Butian sighed softly. I know you sympathize with the weak, but have you ever thought about how much effort the so-called strong, the rich, and the rich have to put in to succeed? Chu Yang said softly, they have put in the hard work of their ancestors, waking up early and working late. They have put in thousands and tens of thousands of times more effort than others. Now that they have made a name for themselves, why should they be equal to those fellows who don't even think about improving themselves? Do they go through life and death so that they can be equal to others? We discriminate against the rich and look down on exploitation and oppression. But we can't deny the hard work they have put in to get to where they are now. Chu Yang said deeply, but Ian, actually, in a certain sense, the world is already very equal. The world is already very equal. Tai Butian was a little confused. They were talking about absolute inequality just now. How did it become complete equality in the blink of an eye? What kind of statement was this? Yes, in the face of hard work, everyone is equal. Chu Yang said calmly, as long as one puts in effort, there will be gains. Here, we are all equal. Chu Yang laughed softly. Those who really work hard, even if they occasionally complain at the beginning, are just saying it. They still have to fight for what they have to fight for. When you are working hard every day for the sake of your country's life and ideals, almost all the time, where would you find the time to complain? To say that the world is unfair. So, the more you complain about the world being unfair every day, the harder it is for you to achieve anything. The more you achieve, the poorer and more dejected you are. The poorer and more dejected you are, the less status you have. The less status you have, the more you feel that the world is unfair. That's how it is. The so-called great harmony of the world is just an ideal. It can never be realized. And some inequalities are actually the driving force for people to move forward. Tai Butian fell into deep thought. Chu Yang said calmly, so, we don't have to worry about these. What we really need to worry about now is to survive in this heaven imperial court. And we need to live a glorious life until everyone who sees us will scold us in their hearts. Only then will we be considered to have truly succeeded. Scold us? Tai Butian asked curiously. Scold us, look at how well they are doing. This fucking world is really too unequal. We are all humans. Look at the two of them living at the peak while we still have to struggle at the bottom. Based on what? Chu Yang smiled and said. Tai Butian laughed. Could this be your dream? No. Chu Yang's eyes narrowed. My ideal is slightly different from this. To be specific, it should be. People of the level of the Heaven Imperial Court, Emperor Yi Hu and only Saint Monarch should also say this when they see our world. Tai Butian was speechless. Even the Emperor Yi Hu and only Saint Monarch were jealous of him. Then, what kind of world was this? Tai Butian didn't know. And, at least now, she couldn't even think of it. The calamity sword clanged. It alarmed Chu Yang. With a wave of his hand, the calamity sword flew into his hand. Chu Yang's heart was filled with the joy of reuniting after a long period of separation. Although they had only parted for an extremely short period of time, less than 2 hours, in Chu Yang's mind, it was as if he had been separated from the calamity sword for several generations. Old buddy. Were you scared just now? Chu Yang smiled. The calamity sword trembled slightly, as if responding to him. Chu Yang laughed heartily. You almost reverted back to your original form. The calamity sword flashed, as if it was very dissatisfied with Chu Yang. A kind of grievance was clearly transmitted to Chu Yang's heart. Chu Yang laughed. The figure in the calamity sword smiled and lay down comfortably. Looks like I'm not needed anymore. It's really easy for me to be your protector. Sigh, it's better to return to my original form and laugh proudly in the sky, but this is small. He's really a ruthless character. No wonder Gong and Laro Hei value him so much. I'm really curious. How far can he go in the future? If he can rush into the supreme void and reach the level of Gong and Laro Hei, it won't be in vain for me to protect him this time. Chu Yang held the settling calamity sword again, and a strange emotion rose in his heart. He thought of the scene where ZJ held the calamity sword and slaughtered the Ghost Realm experts. No matter how strong they were, once the sword was out, they would die. No matter how high their cultivation was, as long as they were in front of my sword, they would die. No matter who it was, they would have to submit to my sword. And I only need one sword. I definitely don't need a second sword. Maybe that's the real peak of sword techniques. Chu Yang was fascinated. A simple sword contains thousands of great Daos. Humans, gods, and ghosts, in front of such a sword, have no way to resist at all. This is the real meaning of the calamity sword technique. Chu Yang concluded fiercely in his heart. The calamity sword in his hand shone brightly. Immediately. Clang. With a sword sound, it left Chu Yang's hand and flew into the air. In an instant, an unprecedented murderous aura exploded from the calamity sword. This murderous aura was so sharp, but it was also so thick. In such a world, only I am supreme. The cold murderous aura raged back and forth in the realm of the god source. The temperature of the air dropped by at least dozens of degrees. Rays and rays of majestic sword energy were emitted from the calamity sword. They crisscrossed and intersected, brilliant and mighty, unparalleled in the world. At this moment, the majesty of the sword energy made the soul of the calamity sword, who was hiding in the shadows, tremble. How can there be such a terrifying sword in the world? How can there be such a terrifying sword energy? Help, the calamity sword. The shadow seemed to have just laid down, but Uran suddenly stood up again. Sharp sword light shot out from his eyes. I didn't expect you to comprehend the essence of the sword so quickly. You're really a genius. With a thought from the shadow, a blurry message moved from the calamity sword and entered Chu Yang's mind. Chu Yang only felt a sharp pain in his brain. Then, there was something else in his mind. He forcefully endured the pain and looked carefully. He couldn't help but murmur. The sword is a weapon for killing. When the sword is out, it's killing and attacking. The sword is your defense. The sword is your block. Where the sword is pointed, it will go forward. The real calamity sword technique is killing. There is only killing. The real calamity sword technique is your sword moves. How can there be sword moves? There are only 4 moves. Now, I will teach you how to combine the 32 moves of the calamity sword technique into 4 moves. This is the move of the sword soul. Once you've comprehended the next level of Shu, you'll be invincible in this heaven imperial court. Chapter 1912. Chu Yang's body shook, and an extremely strong divine light shot out from his eyes. So, there really is. I didn't guess wrong. It turned out that after such a long time, almost 3 lifetimes, only then did I truly come into contact with the true essence of the calamity sword technique. The sword spirit, who had been following him, suddenly felt his body tremble. A voice suddenly rang out. To be more precise, it was the voice that suddenly rang out in his mind. You useless bastard, why aren't you practicing this set of sword technique? What are you waiting for? The sword spirit was stunned. This sword technique? What sword technique? The voice said with disappointment, I really want to find a female phoenix and stuff you into her, but to be remade. How could you be so stupid? Can you be any more stupid? Forget it, I'll do it myself. Then, the sword spirit felt his body involuntarily float out, holding the tribulation sword. From P. The light on the tribulation sword shone brightly again. A voice sounded in his mind, remember this sword technique with your heart. Even if you can't remember it with all your might. Then, the sword spirit found that his body was dancing rapidly, as if he didn't have control over it. In Chu Yang's eyes, the sword spirit rushed out and grabbed the tribulation sword in an especially cool and pretentious posture. He even casually drew a dazzling sword flower. Then, he stabbed out with the sword. Halfway through the stab, Chu Yang had already seen through it, and couldn't help but be shocked. This move was obviously a single ray of cold light pierces 10,000 fathoms. But then, it seemed to have changed. The moment the cold light was about to shoot out, the sword body shook. It actually changed into a sword blade that has been famous since ancient times. Then, it curved and became a blade that crosses the sky for 10,000 autumns. Then, it changed again. It became an iron wall and a copper wall that hasn't stopped fighting, a hidden light that hides the edge until the end of the night. Then, it became I have the power of life and death in my hands, a big clump without a sharp edge, and finally, the sword light shook. It was as light as a dream floating. In the eyes of those who did not understand the calamity sword technique, the sword's trajectory was just a slow stab without any changes. It was not much different from an ordinary person's casual swing. But in Chu Yang's eyes, he could clearly see 8 consecutive stances of the calamity sword being displayed on this sword at the same time. The essence of the first 8 stances of the calamity sword technique was fused into this one move. It was just a simple wave, but it had already attracted Chu Yang's full attention. He was completely immersed in it. As far as the eye could see, there was nothing else. The next moment, the calamity sword's starting stance was about to change, and at the last moment, it suddenly stabbed out. The tip of the sword glowed. The sword was sharp and cold. The sword was hard, the sword was hidden, the hilt was palmed, the head of the sword was dangerous, and the tassel of the sword was floating. In this simple strike, the power of the Calamity Sword was fully displayed. Although it looked like a single sword strike, when it pierced out, wind and thunder surged soundlessly, and the sky changed color. The power of this sword was a perfect fusion of the 8 wonderful sword moves. It transformed into a single move. Or rather, it had become a sword. Just a sword. Chu Yang watched without blinking. His heart trembled, and he felt relaxed and happy. His heart and soul were intoxicated, but he also understood what was going on. The sword intent contained in the first stance of each section of the sword could be connected so perfectly, and become a transcendent sword strike that was enough to shock the world. The sword in the sword spirit's hand only pierced out horizontally, but where the tip of the sword pointed, wind and thunder suddenly surged. Thousands of sword auras appeared in the void in an inexplicable way, and each of them burst out from a completely different angle and power, and this was just one sword strike. Chu Yang was drenched in cold sweat. So, the true power of the Calamity Sword technique was actually this strong? This is the real one ray of cold light pierces 10,000 fathoms, the sword spirit said calmly. The sword spirit's tone was very different from usual. In the past, when he spoke, there was always some flavor. Or rather, even though he was a sword spirit, he always had some human aura. But now, there was only calmness and indifference in what he said. It was a kind of calmness and indifference after experiencing the vicissitudes of life, and the world was no longer in his heart. Right now, Chu Yang was extremely agitated. In his carelessness, he actually didn't realize that the sword spirit's tone was very different from before. All of Chu Yang's attention was already attracted by this peerless sword strike, and he was in awe of it. There was no one and nothing else. This was, one ray of cold light pierces 10,000 fathoms. When this ray of cold light first appeared, it could shatter mountains and rivers in an instant. It could destroy the world in the blink of an eye. The sword spirit's silhouette magically moved again. He retracted the tip of the sword, and gently pulled it back. Suddenly, he held the sword horizontally in front of his chest, and naturally formed a kind of awe-inspiring aura of a man who could hold back 10,000 men. In this still place, the sword suddenly pierced out. The speed of this sword strike was so fast that it was difficult to describe it with words. It was so fast that it could almost catch up with the passage of time. Chu Yang was watching from the side. He felt as if his scalp was about to explode. This sword move seems to have all its power in speed. But, the power behind it is extremely long. It's mighty and unstoppable for thousands of miles. It was as if it wanted to slaughter the whole world in the long path of this sword strike, and not leave anything behind. This sword strike contained all the concepts of the entire second move of the 8-section sword technique, and it was perfectly integrated. It was another perfect integration of moves. When this sword strike was really released, its ferocious aura would then erupt to the extreme in the most ferocious way. Then, it even engulfed the entire space. Wherever the sword aura touched, it was all within its range of attack. This is the real what's the harm in slaughtering the whole world, said the sword spirit indifferently. Chu Yang stared at it without blinking. He had already simulated this sword move thousands of times in his heart. He had clearly memorized the 8 sword moves by heart. However, he couldn't connect all the sword intents together, let alone merge them perfectly. Even he, who was the most familiar with the tribulation sword technique, couldn't do it. How did the sword spirit do it? When the sword strikes, it must kill. When the sword strikes, it must see blood, said the sword spirit indifferently. There must be surging killing intent in your heart. Only when you think of slaughtering the whole world can you unleash the true essence of this move. Next is the third move. After a long time, Chu Yang woke up from his daze. The sword spirit and the tribulation sword had already disappeared. The sword spirit returned to the tribulation space, and the tribulation sword also returned to Chu Yang's dantian. Chu Yang summoned and the tribulation sword was already in his hand. He calmed his heart and condensed his aura. He tried to slowly stab out the first sword strike. He kept thinking about the integration of the 8 sword intents. He seemed to have comprehended something, but also seemed to be confused. He didn't understand the main points. In fact, Chu Yang himself also knew that it was impossible to completely comprehend and master such a rare and peerless killing move in a short period of time. Therefore, he had already prepared himself for a long period of study. Without 3 to 5 years of grinding, it was simply wishful thinking for one to reach the heavens in a single bound with such an extraordinary sword move. But he was still a little unwilling. The integration of sword intents. Chu Yang exhaled softly. All his original guesses, all his predictions, all of his fantasies and fantasies, they were all in these 4 sword moves. They were all perfectly embodied. These 4 sword moves, or rather, 4 sword strikes, were really all-encompassing. Of course, it included the saber energy turns that Chu Yang had mentioned before. It also included the power of water and fire, the essence of heaven and earth that Chu Yang had thought of before. It even included the hidden life force in absolute slaughter and death, and so on and so forth. These 4 sword moves were like a huge martial arts treasure trove. As far as the eye could see, it was all-encompassing and vast, and it was within reach. The only thing missing now was how to truly touch these 4 sword moves. As long as he could truly comprehend these 4 sword moves and use them as he wished, Chu Yang was confident that he would truly be invincible then. Now, I've at least learned the basics. I'll take it slow. Chu Yang sighed softly and put away the tribulation sword. Chu Yang, what were you doing just now? You didn't answer when I called you. What happened? Tai Butian walked over and asked curiously. Just now. I was practicing my sword. Chu Yang was rather puzzled. Someone was teaching me sword moves just now. Didn't you see anything? The sword spirit didn't avoid Tai Butian at all when he was practicing his sword moves just now. And it was so loud. But now that Tai Butian said so, there must be another reason. Practicing sword moves? Teaching sword moves? Tai Butian was rather amused. How can there be an outsider teaching you sword moves here? Isn't it just you and me here? You were standing there as punishment, but you were actually practicing your sword moves. How refreshing. Chu Yang was stunned. It was only now that Chu Yang realized that although Tai Butian was at the side, she didn't see anything at all when he was practicing his sword moves. Since when did the sword spirit become so powerful that he could control space so perfectly? He could let whoever he wanted to see it. He couldn't let whoever he didn't want to see it. This was too awesome, wasn't it? But didn't he just break through to the peak of saint level? He seemed to be only a little stronger than Lightning Snake and the others. And his foundation didn't seem very solid either. How could he be so powerful? Was it because of my breakthrough and he broke through again? Although the sword spirit was definitely not that powerful and there was someone else who was really powerful, Chu Yang was right about one thing. The sword spirit broke through again, and the extent of it was quite big. At the moment of Chu Yang's breakthrough, the few people related to Chu Yang also underwent earth-shaking changes at the same time. The first to sense it was undoubtedly the sword spirit. The growth of the sword spirit and the tribulation space followed Chu Yang's growth. It could be a little higher than Chu Yang's actual cultivation, but not by much. But now, as Chu Yang's cultivation rose to the peak of saint level, the tribulation space also expanded by dozens of times. As for the spiritual energy inside, it also became richer. The strength of the sword spirit, on the other hand, soared from the level of a saint to the level of a heavenly human, and then it stopped. Chapter 1913. It wasn't that he couldn't continue to improve, but because this level had already surpassed the sword spirit's cultivation when he was alive, and it was much, much more than that. The sword spirit was born in the Phoenix clan, and the highest level of cultivation was probably at the heavenly human level. There were no cultivators higher than that, and naturally, there were no cultivation techniques from the clan. Therefore, the sword spirit didn't seem to know how to cultivate in the future. The final result was that he was forced to stop. Before finding a new path, the sword spirit's cultivation would stagnate here. Update P. But this new path was likely to be harder than reaching the sky. Because in the history of the Phoenix clan, there had never been anyone who could surpass the heavenly human grade. There was a barren land in front of him. There wasn't even a road, let alone a smooth road. The other one who had an amazing improvement was Wang Dao. Previously, Wang Dao had coincidentally signed a master-servant contract with Chu Yang due to the one-step to heaven ascending pellet. As long as Chu Yang hadn't made a breakthrough, Wang Dao's killing intent would be limited to Chu Yang's current realm. Therefore, Yang Rushan had felt very sorry for Wang Dao's cultivation in the future because of Chu Yang's trash physique. But now, Chu Yang's cultivation had greatly improved due to the opportunity. It was tantamount to opening a gap in the sealed saber intent in his body. It came out with a whoosh. While Chu Yang was upgrading, Wang Dao was fighting with someone outside. He was originally at a disadvantage. Although his life might not be in danger, it was difficult to win. Unexpectedly, inexplicably, he became lively as if he had taken some medicine. He jumped from the early stage of the heaven grade to the high stage. With one slash, his cultivation directly reached the high stage of the heaven grade, breaking through in a battle. To be honest, it wasn't a rare thing. But breaking through in the same battle. The continuous breakthroughs of one small realm after another was quite shocking. It was almost a miracle that had been created since the ancient times. Wang Dao was confused about his own changes. He hadn't cultivated for long. If Yang Rushan was here, he would immediately understand that Chu Yang and Wang Dao had broken through. Wang Dao's real strength level always depended on Chu Yang's level. But no matter what, it was good to kill the enemy. In fact, Wang Dao hadn't accumulated much. If he had accumulated enough, he would have reached the saint grade and the heavenly human grade on purpose. Who was his master? His real cultivation was at least at the heavenly human grade. In every corner of the heavens and earth, Tribulation's brothers, who were scattered in all directions, also felt their spirits shake at the same time. Then, it seemed that some inexplicable energy had entered their bodies. All of a sudden, he was filled with a sense of confidence and pleasure. Everyone was already used to this kind of situation. Boss must have gotten out of some kind of crisis and gotten something good because of it. He had to say something worth saying. This was the first time something like this had happened in the Heaven Valley, so it was worth celebrating. It seems that Boss's progress is still far ahead of ours. Everyone had to continue working hard. Otherwise, they would only be able to watch Boss perform a one-man show when they fought the heavenly demon, but at the same time, he was finally relieved. That inexplicable feeling of farewell in the afternoon was really heart-wrenching. It must have been an illusion. In other words, something had happened to Boss. However, it was a good thing, a very, very good thing. Dreamlike veranda. Mo Qingwu jumped up, feeling very comfortable in her heart. I can feel that Chu Yang should be fine now. He scared me to death just now. Although Mo Qingwu didn't have a clear feeling, the sudden change from heartache to comfort made her feel very comfortable all over. She instinctively thought that Chu Yang had gotten out of the crisis. In a small house in Jiangnan, Zi Xieching also heaved a sigh of relief. Although she was still confused and didn't know what had happened, she finally didn't feel so confused anymore. In the Heavens continent, Yang Ruolan had been feeling uneasy and restless. Now, she finally calmed down and didn't have trouble sleeping at night. In the lower three heavens palace, the young emperor heaved a long sigh of relief and murmured, "He's my father indeed. He's not so easy to pass away. Tian, we should go back too." Chu Yang smiled. Tai Butian nodded. He knew almost everything in the land of the divine source. At this moment, the tribulation godly spirit, who was hiding in the shadows, heaved a huge sigh of relief when he heard Chu Yang's words. "Ancestor, you're finally leaving. Don't come back if you're leaving." "Well, Elder, I'm leaving now. Please come out and have a chat with us. I've offended you with my careless words just now. I apologize to you here." Chu Yang greeted him casually. The tribulation godly spirit shrank back and made up his mind not to say anything. "If you're tired of shouting, then get lost. I can't be bothered to entertain you. Have a chat." "What can I have a chat with you?" Even if you don't scold me, there won't be anything good in your words. It's not like I can't take your company, you'd better hurry up and leave. That's the best compensation for me. You're a living person. Even if you die, there will be someone to save you. I've been in the state of a ghost for so many years. I still want to live for a few more years. When he thought of this, he couldn't help but feel sorry for himself. It was rare for Chu Yang to have the opportunity to intimidate others, but he didn't expect this guy to refuse. He thought of how he was almost played to death by this guy in the morning. At that time, he seemed to have made a fool of himself. It was almost the biggest failure in his life. He felt indignant and said angrily, "If you don't come out, I won't leave. And then I'll call Shui Leihan in." "Don't, please don't." The tribulation godly spirit quickly came out, his face pale. "Little ancestor, do you have to torture me like this?" Chu Yang looked at this guy cautiously. He was still a little uncertain. Although his cultivation had improved, he was still not a match for this guy. That was for sure. Seeing that this guy was indeed scared and not faking it, he finally felt relieved. "Elder, why are you afraid of me? Is it because of that old man Shui Leihan?" Chu Yang asked curiously. Chu Yang was really puzzled and curious about this question. This matter was really a little strange. If it was only because of Shui Leihan, then it didn't seem to make sense. This guy originally still resented Shui Leihan. You're His Majesty's little brother. Of course, I don't dare to offend you." The tribulation godly spirit nodded and bowed. This didn't seem to make sense. With the improvement of his cultivation, Chu Yang's eyesight also improved greatly. Shui Leihan's strength was undoubtedly above the tribulation godly spirit. If the two of them fought head-on, the tribulation godly spirit would definitely lose. This was beyond doubt and very obvious. However, Chu Yang didn't believe that Shui Leihan could easily get rid of the tribulation godly spirit. The tribulation godly spirit was in a pure soul state. In this state, it was almost indestructible and had a long lifespan. It was almost unafraid of any tangible or intangible attacks in the world. Its own cultivation had already reached an extremely high level. Even if it was still a distance away from Die, it was definitely an expert of the same level. In other words, Shui Leihan could definitely win against the tribulation godly spirit, but he couldn't destroy it. The tribulation godly spirit was extremely afraid of Shui Leihan, probably because of his past prestige and the awe of the Emperor. If Shui Leihan directly made it clear that he wanted to kill the tribulation godly spirit, the tribulation godly spirit would be forced to resist. The situation might not be so one-sided. Even if it was one-sided, the tribulation godly spirit still had a lot of means to escape unscathed. It couldn't win in a fight, but it could definitely escape. Chu Yang frowned and said, "There should be other reasons, right?" The tribulation godly spirit stammered and hesitated, not knowing what to say. Then, it heard a voice in its mind. "How dare you betray me? I'll let you scream for 810,000 years before you die. Do you want to try?" The tribulation godly spirit yelled, "I don't dare." Chu Yang frowned. "Don't dare? What don't you dare to do?" The tribulation godly spirit was so anxious that he was sweating on his forehead. "I mean, I don't dare to offend you. Who are you? You're so blessed, so handsome, so chivalrous, so courageous, so benevolent and righteous, and so loyal. You definitely won't make things difficult for me." Chu Yang looked at him from the corner of his eyes. Why did he feel that this guy wasn't being honest? Although what he said was the truth and was very easy to listen to, Chu Yang still felt a little dissatisfied. That gaze made the tribulation godly spirit feel uneasy, as if there was a thorn in his back. He kept feeling that this little gaze was up to no good. "I've already complimented you so much, why are you still not satisfied?" "Well, since Elder thinks so highly of me." Chu Yang's eyes turned. "You're not of much use here, and you're also lonely, empty, and cold. Why don't you follow me out to make a living? The outside world is very beautiful." "Follow you out to make a living?" The tribulation godly spirit was instantly stunned when he heard this suggestion. "If I really follow you out to make a living, Won't I fall into the hands of that powerful existence? I'll be shrouded in the most terrifying threat at all times. If that's the case, then will I still be able to live in the future? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but shudder. I still prefer to stay here alone. I'd better stay here. I see. In that case, I won't force you. Chu Yang nodded understandingly. Speaking of which, Chu Yang's sudden idea of incorporating this guy was purely on a whim. Thinking about it, he also felt that it was unrealistic. His appetite seemed a little too big, too whimsical. Even though he was only a soul tribulation, he was still a peerless powerhouse comparable to a saint. Even though he had improved, he was still only at the pinnacle of the saint realm. To think that he wanted to recruit such a peerless powerhouse. It was a bit like a fool's dream. So he didn't say anything else. He nodded and said, "In that case, I'll take my leave." After he finished speaking, he pulled Tai Butian into the tribulation space and controlled the space to float out. He thought to himself, "We'll meet again. I'll come to this place again. The next time I come, I'll make you suffer. So many experts will fight with you at the same time. Can't I do you a favor then?" You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.